What if the next great company in the world isn't built by making an existing idea a little better, but by bringing a completely new idea into existence? Most people just do what already works. They copy existing products, make them a little better, and become part of the same competition. But what if real success isn't about winning the competition at all? What if it's about creating something that has no competition whatsoever? That's the 0 to 1 mindset. In this book, Peter Thiel explains that true innovation isn't just improving something old. True innovation happens when you go from 0 to 1. When you create something that never existed before. But the question is, can you create something the world has never even seen? So let's find out how a great idea is born, why monopoly is so powerful, and how you create the future instead of just trying to predict it. Now let's begin 0 to 1. Chapter 1. The challenge of the future. Feel that cold, foggy morning on your skin. You're standing by the glass window of the tallest, most luxurious building in the city. Down on the street, thousands of cars are crawling along in a single line. Millions of people are rushing toward their offices. Every face carries the same exhaustion. Every pair of eyes holds the same sleepiness. You rest your forehead against the glass and watch that blind race below. A strange tightness starts to rise in your chest. A question echoes in your mind. Will tomorrow be exactly like today? 10 years from now, will these same cars still be crawling, and these same people still be rushing? From childhood we've been taught a huge lie. We've been told that the simple passing of time is what we call the future. We think that if today is Monday and tomorrow is Tuesday, then tomorrow we've automatically arrived in the future. But time doesn't bring any progress with it. Time is just an empty box. If you don't put something new into it, the future becomes nothing more than a rotten, stale version of today. Feel that terrible silence when the truth hits you. Progress never happens by itself. When we talk about the future, we're not talking about time. We're talking about the changes that will make today's world completely irrelevant. You always have only two paths in front of you. And the difference between these two paths is what decides whether you'll make history or disappear somewhere in the pages of history. Feel the first path in your veins. It's called horizontal progress, or 1 to N progress. It simply means going from 1 to N. Imagine yourself standing inside a massive, noisy factory. Thousands of machines are running at once. The noise is so loud it could tear your eardrums. The air is thick with the sharp smell of melted plastic and machine oil filling your lungs. What's happening there? They're making a smartphone or a shoe that already exists in America or Europe. They're just making it a little cheaper, a little thinner. You're copying something that already works. When countries like China or India take Western business models and apply them in their own countries, they're traveling from 1 to N. That's globalization. There's no mystery on this path. No magic. You already know what's going to happen tomorrow. But there's a terrible pain on this path. The pain of blind competition. When you're doing exactly what everyone else is doing, you have to lower your prices every single day. You have to choke your own profits. You can't sleep at night because you're afraid that tomorrow someone else will start doing the same work for 1 rupee less. Going from 1 to N feels easy because you don't have to think of any new idea. But it exhausts your soul from the inside. It's a race where the only prize for the winner is to keep running even harder. Now close your eyes and step onto the second path. This is vertical progress, the journey from 0 to 1. Imagine a small, stifling garage. It's 3 in the morning. Outside there's a terrifying silence. Inside the garage, only a single dim yellow bulb is burning. There's no noise. No factory. No crowd. You're sitting in front of an old computer. Your eyes are burning. Your stomach is twisted with hunger. But inside you there's a strange kind of madness. You're writing something, building something for which no blueprint exists in the world. You're not copying anyone. You're giving birth to a new truth on a blank canvas. Feel the terror and the loneliness of that moment. There's no one to tell you whether you're right or wrong. The whole world is deep asleep, and you're fighting the laws of nature. When you go from 0 to 1, you don't build a better typewriter. You invent the word processor. You don't make the horse-drawn carriage go faster. You invent the automobile. Going from 0 to 1 means performing a miracle that wipes out all the old rules in a single stroke. This work is so terrifying and so difficult that 99% of the people in the world tremble at the mere thought of taking this path. To understand this fear, you have to step into a page of history when humanity was trapped in a massive crisis. Let's walk the streets of New York City in the year 1898. Feel that terrible stench in your breath. Thousands of horse-drawn carriages are racing through the city streets. Mountains of horse manure are piled up everywhere. The buzzing of flies is so loud it could deafen you. When it rains, the entire street turns into a rotting swamp. Diseases like cholera and typhoid are tearing through the city. The world's greatest experts and urban planners are sitting in a conference. Feel the heavy tension in that room. Beads of sweat are on their foreheads. They're running the numbers and explaining that if the city keeps growing like this, in the next 50 years the level of horse manure will reach the 3rd floor of the buildings. What were they doing? They were stuck in one-to-end thinking. They were asking, can we build streets that are easier to clean? Can we breed horses that eat less and produce less waste? They were looking at the future in a straight line. They had no way out of that stinking swamp. The conference was supposed to last 10 days. But the experts became so discouraged that they gave up after only 3 days and shut the whole thing down. They believed humanity would die buried under its own waste, but at that very moment, in a completely different world, one man was building something in his workshop that those experts had never even imagined in their wildest dreams. Henry Ford was not doing horizontal progress. He didn't look at that stinking street. He looked toward 0. He put an internal combustion engine on iron wheels. Feel the shiver of that moment in your bones. The first time that strange-looking machine came roaring down the streets of New York with a terrifying noise. The horses started neighing in fear. People leaned out of their windows to look. A new smell of burning iron and smoke spread through the air. That smell was different from the stench of manure. That smell was the future. That one machine didn't solve the problem of horse manure. It made the problem disappear forever. It completely removed the horses from the streets. That's what going from 0 to 1 means. You don't fight the problem. You make the problem completely irrelevant. You create an entirely new universe. But if going from 0 to 1 is so magical, why don't we all do it? Why do we keep running after the horses on that same rotting street? The answer is hidden in our blood, deep in our minds. Remember that classroom from your childhood. You're sitting on your bench. The teacher has written a question on the board. You know an answer that's completely different from the one in the book. You feel the urge to raise your hand. But then you look at the 40 kids sitting around you. Your amygdala sounds an alarm. Your heart starts beating faster. A strange knot forms in your stomach. Your mind screams at you that if you give that different answer and it's wrong, the whole class will laugh at you. You'll be cast out of the group. You tremble with that fear and lower your hand. You memorize the same answer everyone else is memorizing. This is no ordinary fear. From a neuroscience perspective, the pain of social rejection feels exactly the same to the body as if someone pressed a red-hot iron against your skin. Thousands of years ago, when humans lived in tribes in the forest, if anyone went against the rules of the tribe, they were thrown out. And being thrown out of the tribe meant becoming prey for some wild animal or dying of hunger. Our brain is still running on that same tribal software. It tells us that safety lies in staying with the crowd. If we do what everyone else is doing, we'll never die alone. This primitive terror ruthlessly kills our creativity, our courage to go from 0 to 1, every single day. In today's world we stand at a terrifying crossroads between globalization and technology. Globalization means spreading things that already work all across the world. If you want a lifestyle like America's, you need cars like America's, electricity like America's, and factories like America's. Now feel this frightening math in your mind. Countries like China and India are home to billions of people. If these billions start using energy exactly the way America does, without any new technology, without going from 0 to 1, what will happen? Feel the heat of that burning earth on your skin. The poison of carbon in the air that will scorch your lungs. The boiling water of the oceans. If we only go from 1 to n, we are actually committing suicide. Globalization without new technology is just another name for destruction. We've fallen under the illusion that the world will get better on its own. We think our smartphones will get a little thinner every year and the cameras will get a little clearer, and that this is the future. But this is not the future. This is just a polished version of the present. The real future will arrive when an energy source is created that doesn't harm nature. When humans can destroy diseases inside the body before they even begin. And to do all of that, we have to get out of this blind 1 to n race. The way out of this blind race doesn't pass through some grand formula or some expensive degree. It starts with a very small, very sharp question that cuts straight through the chest. This is the question I ask every person who comes to me looking for a job or asking for money for their company. Feel the stuffiness of that closed room. You're sitting in a chair across from me. Your hands are sweating. You've memorized every answer for your interview. You're ready to talk about your degree and your experience. But I push all your papers aside. I look straight into your eyes. A terrifying silence fills the room. And then I ask you that question. What important truth do most people in the world disagree with you about? The moment that question hits your ears, feel the mental paralysis that takes over inside you. Your mind starts racing. You want to think of something that sounds really special. You say the education system is broken. But wait, everyone agrees with that. You say God doesn't exist. That's not a new truth either. A huge part of the world already believes it. You say we should protect the environment. That's just the crowd's truth. In that moment you realize that 99% of the thoughts in your head aren't even yours. They're just ideas stolen from school, society, newspapers, and the internet that you've claimed as your own. You're living in an echo chamber where you only hear what you want to hear. Facing that naked truth while sitting in that chair can crush anyone's soul. You discover that you've never thought anything original in your entire life. When you try to find an answer to that question, you start to feel how cleverly the human mind deceives itself. We think we're thinking independently. But in reality, our brain is wired in such a way that we always adopt the idea that keeps us safest in society. If you're sitting in a corporate office, the truth there will be different. If you're standing at a political rally, the truth there will be different. But none of that is truth. Those are just rigid beliefs. A true founder is someone who can see past these beliefs. Someone who understands that the rules we treat like lines carved in stone were actually made by people who weren't any smarter than us. Every great startup in the world is born from the right answer to this one question. Uber wasn't created because someone needed a taxi. Uber was created because Travis Kalanick saw the truth that every person already has a supercomputer in their pocket and we can use the empty time of cars. That was a truth no one in the taxi industry agreed with. Airbnb was created because Brian Chesky saw that people actually want to trust strangers, while the whole world believed strangers are dangerous. This is the power of going from 0 to 1. It's a mental earthquake that shakes the entire world around you. Contrarian thinking doesn't mean you oppose others just for the sake of opposing them. If everyone says it's day and you say it's night, you're not a contrarian. You're just a fool. Real contrarian thinking means having the courage to see the truth that the rest of the world is ignoring because of its pride, its fear, or its habits. It's the truth that sits right in front of you. But it's covered by such a heavy curtain of society's beliefs that no one wants to lift it. Imagine the moment when Galileo looked up at the sky through his telescope. The entire world, the entire church, all the power structures believe that the sun revolves around the earth. Galileo saw the truth that no one agreed with him about. He saw that the earth revolves around the sun. The price of speaking that truth was that he lost his freedom. Every person who goes from 0 to 1 is seen at the beginning as a madman, a rebel, or a fool. When you're sitting in that chair searching for an answer to my question, you're actually fighting that ancient fear inside you that stops you from standing apart from the crowd. If you want to create a future that is truly different from today, you have to clear out those webs in your mind. You have to build the courage inside yourself that gives you the strength to stand alone. When you start a new company, when you make a new invention, you're actually bringing a small piece of the future into today's world. You're leaping into that empty, unknown darkness where there are no guarantees. The future is not a place we're going to. The future is a place we're creating. Ready-made paths don't exist. You have to walk them, and while walking them, you have to forge them. If we only keep walking the paths that are already built, we'll never reach any new destination. Tonight when you go to sleep, ask yourself this question. In the darkness of your room, listen to that silence. Are you wasting one more day of your life just copying others, just running in that one-to-end race? Or has that restlessness, that fire already been born inside you that will take you to that terrifying yet magical point of zero, the place where every great thing begins? The challenge isn't just how the world will change. The challenge is whether you will become the cause of that change or whether you'll remain just a silent spectator of it. The future is waiting for you. But it won't come to you on its own. You have to pull it into this world with your stubbornness, your courage, and your 0-to-1 thinking. Chapter 2. Party like it's 1999. Just think about what it would have felt like to stand in a Silicon Valley office in the year 1999. There's a strange electricity in the air. Mixed with the smell of coffee is a new kind of intoxication floating through the room. All around there's only one noise. The people next to you who were ordinary coders just yesterday have become millionaires today. You don't need to build a great product. You don't need a solid revenue model. Just put a .com after your company's name and investors will open bags of money right in front of you. Every morning when you wake up, the market has already gone higher. This isn't just greed. This is a collective high. It starts to feel like all the rules of the old world have been wiped out, and everyone is standing right in the middle of a magical world where no one can ever lose. But then that cursed morning in March 2000 arrives. The tickers on the screens suddenly start turning red. At first it feels like just a minor dip. But over the next few weeks, everything that the whole world had accepted as its future starts collapsing like a house of cards. A terrifying silence settles over the offices. The friends who bought new sports cars yesterday are begging to keep their jobs today. This isn't just a loss of money. It's a deep psychological shock. Feel the depth of that pain when your biggest dream shatters right in front of you and there's nothing you can do. That strange knot rising in your stomach, that tightness that keeps you awake at night. This pain completely changed the way the whole world thinks. Psychology says that when a person barely escapes a massive accident, their mind fills with fear. Exactly the same thing happened to the startup ecosystem. The people who survived the wreckage of the .com crash made some rules to protect themselves. They told themselves that from now on they would never dream big again. They decided that from now on they would only take small, safe steps. No one would make firm plans so that if conditions changed they could switch direction immediately. Instead of taking the risk of creating a new market, they would only go where competitors already existed because at least the demand there was guaranteed. And most important of all, they would focus only on the product. They wouldn't waste money on marketing and sales. Even today, if you walk into any business school, these are the exact lessons you're taught. But feel the fear that sits deep behind these rules. This isn't caution. This is paralysis. When we only take small steps, we can never go from 0 to 1. When we don't plan, we actually become part of someone else's plan. Entering competition means killing your profits on the very first day. The fear from the .com crash forced an entire generation to believe that thinking big was the cause of the disaster. They never understood that the mistake wasn't in thinking big. The mistake was in building castles in the air with no foundation. To understand this atmosphere of fear, we have to feel Jeff Bezos' struggle in the year 2001. Amazon's stock has fallen from $107 to $6. News channels are running headlines calling it the Amazon bomb. There's heavy pressure from every investor to shut the company down, cut costs, and just somehow stay alive. Employees are terrified and leaving. As a leader, feel that tightness and loneliness. When the whole world is calling you crazy, laughing at your judgment, how heavy it feels to stay locked onto your own decisions. But Bezos refused to let that fear take over. While the other dot-com companies were closing their offices, Bezos was sitting in a closed room carefully studying financial statements and customer data. He realized that even though the stock market had crashed, the number of people using the internet was still growing every day. Instead of retreating in fear, he made a decision that changed history. He put forward the idea of Amazon Prime and began building the cloud computing infrastructure known as AWS. This was a massive vision. He refused both the reckless flying of 1999 and the cowardly rules of 2000. This was the moment where conviction defeated fear. At exactly the same time, inside Apple headquarters, another man was going through the same kind of mental war. When Steve Jobs returned to Apple, the company was almost finished. The economy was in a recession and everyone in the tech industry was just trying to save their money. Feel the tension in that boardroom. Steve presents his team with the idea of a music player that will cost $400. Silence fills the room. Everyone is staring at him. People are thinking, when jobs are disappearing all over the world, who is going to buy an expensive MP3 player? But Steve Jobs never thought with the psychology of the crowd. He saw that the world of digital music was completely fragmented and there was no legal way for people to easily buy songs. He didn't just build a gadget. He fought with the music labels and built the iTunes Store. Feel the clarity of that moment when he understood that the real value wasn't in the hardware but in the entire ecosystem. He broke the rule of taking only small steps. The iPod showed the world that even in a recession, if you go from 0 to 1, you can create an entirely new market. When we bring this into our own lives, we have to confront our own weaknesses. When we face a major failure in our career or business, something breaks inside us. Our mind immediately tries to shove us back into the safe zone. We tell ourselves we won't take any big risks anymore. We start copying others because the fear of losing feels smaller that way. Remember the moment when you killed one of your best ideas simply because someone else said it wouldn't work. Fear stops us from seeing the truth that is sitting right in front of us. Building a contrarian mindset doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't mean opposing everything. It means standing calmly in that moment when everyone else is running. When there's too much excitement in the market, you should become cautious. And when fear and despair are everywhere, you should look for the opportunity that other people can't see because of their own tears. We have to teach our minds that every failure doesn't mean we were wrong. Often failure only tells us that the method was wrong, but the vision was right. If we look carefully at our everyday work, we feel the need for a deeper understanding. Whenever a new project starts or a big decision is made, the first question should be, under what emotion is this decision being made? Is this being done only because everyone else is doing it and the fear of being left behind is pressing on us? Or is a big step not being taken simply because someone else recently failed at it? In both of these situations, a person is a slave to their own mind. Real freedom comes when you completely shut out the noise from outside and focus only on the root of the problem. Bubbles will always form and burst. The market will rise and the market will fall. But the people who make history don't watch the ups and downs of the waves. They feel the currents deep in the ocean that are about to change the weather of the entire world. If we only learn to be afraid from other people's experiences, we will never be able to create our own path. The real challenge is to cross that fear and reach that empty space where a new beginning starts. A beginning that doesn't depend on any trend. Chapter 3. All happy companies are different. Feel that terrible exhaustion that takes over your mind every morning even before you wake up. You run a business. Maybe you have a logistics company, or a very famous restaurant right in the middle of the city. You get up at 5 in the morning. Your body is tired, but your mind is already racing. You find out that your biggest competitor has cut their prices by another 5%. A strange knot forms in your stomach. Your breathing becomes heavy. You know that to stay in the market you'll have to lower your prices too. You tell your employees to work even harder. You yourself work 14 hours a day. You try to cut every single expense. But at the end of the month, when you look at your balance sheet, all the profit has disappeared. You've created a lot of value for society. You've given people excellent service. But your own hands are empty. You're running in a race that has no end. This is the bitter truth we call competition. From childhood, we're taught that competition is a very good thing. We're told that it keeps the market balanced and benefits customers. But think from the point of view of the person standing right in the middle of that competition. For him, competition isn't a theory. It's a daily war that drains all his energy and all his profit. When you're in a market of perfect competition, your product is exactly the same as your neighbor's. For the customer, you're just one option, and where there are only options, price is the only weapon left for winning. The result is that profit margins fall close to zero. You just somehow stay alive. You can't think about the future because all your strength is being used just to get through today. Now imagine a completely different world. A world where a CEO sleeps peacefully at night. Where the boardroom doesn't argue about what the competitor will do tomorrow, but discusses how to change the world over the next 10 years. This is the world of monopoly. The moment we hear the word monopoly, a picture of a greedy villain who is looting people rises in our minds. Governments and society hate monopoly. But when we talk about innovation and building the future, monopoly isn't an evil. It's the most essential part of progress. A creative monopoly means you've built something so excellent, so unique, that no one else can even wander near it. You're not cheating anyone. You're simply the only player in your game. You have no competition. That's why you have abundant profits, and because of those profits you can take care of your employees and invest in the technology of tomorrow. In this market, a very deep and interesting psychological game keeps playing. If you look carefully, you'll find that everyone in the market is lying. The companies trapped in fierce competition try to convince themselves and the whole world that they are very special. A person opening a new restaurant tells himself that he's the only one in the entire area who cooks with his grandmother's special recipe. He builds a fake monopoly in his mind so he doesn't have to face the painful truth that he's in a commodity business where he has no real importance. He uses this lie to protect his sleep at night. But on the other side, the real monopolies tell exactly the opposite lie. They're terrified that if the world discovers their true power, governments will come after them and pile heavy regulations on them. So a monopoly always presents itself as a small player. Just think about a search engine company that controls more than 90% of the world's search traffic. That company will never say it's a monopoly. It will say it's only a tiny slice of the entire global advertising market and that it's in very tough competition with newspapers, billboards, and television channels. They hide their enormous power behind the mask of competition. To deeply understand the real power of monopoly and the pain of building one, we have to go to a small Dutch city called Veldhoven. Let's step inside the extremely clean and quiet clean rooms of a company named ASML. There's a strange tension and a deep silence in the air. For decades, the semiconductor industry had been walking a straight path. Microchips were being made smaller and faster. But a time came when the laws of physics said no. The light used to print circuits on silicon could not get any finer. The technology of the entire world was about to hit a wall. Smartphones, AI, computers, everything was about to stop. The engineers at ASML made a decision that was insane to the point of impossibility. They decided to use extreme ultraviolet light, or EUV. Understanding this light is terrifying in itself. This light is so fragile that it disappears even in air. Glass absorbs it. To create it on Earth, the engineers had to build a vacuum deeper than outer space. Stand inside that lab and feel the desperation of Martin van den Brink and his team. They had to attack a microscopic droplet of tin with an extremely powerful laser 500 times every second just to generate that EUV light. Then they had to bounce that light off the smoothest mirrors in the world to reach the silicon. For years it didn't work. Billions of dollars were flowing away like water. Investors' patience was breaking. Tech giants around the world were mocking that this technology would never work. When the laser missed its target, when the vacuum leaked, the despair that filled that room could break anyone's heart. It felt like humans were fighting the rules nature itself had written, and losing. But then the day came when the machine worked for the first time. That impossible light etched a city so fine onto the silicon that human eyes can never see it. There was no celebration in that moment, only a deep and comforting silence. They understood they hadn't just built a machine. They had built an impregnable fortress. Today ASML is the only company in the entire world that can make this EUV machine. Intel, Samsung, TSMC, everyone has to come to them. They have no worry that some competitor will sell a machine cheaper. They have no competitor at all. This is a real monopoly so powerful that the world's economy cannot stand without it. The enormous profits they have give them the freedom to work on the technology of the next 20 years. Now leave this quiet and powerful world and go to a place where there is only noise and pain. Let's walk onto an airport runway. Feel the sharp smell of aviation fuel and the deafening roar of airplane engines. From the outside, the airline industry looks glamorous and exciting. But sitting in its boardrooms is nothing short of a nightmare. You run an airline. You've spent billions of dollars buying the best airplanes. But your competitor has the exact same planes. You both fly from the same cities. When a passenger searches for tickets online, they don't care about your brand. They only look at the price. Imagine you're sitting in the pricing department. Your eyes are locked on the screen. Suddenly your competitor drops their ticket price by 100 rupees. Your heart starts pounding. You know that if you don't lower your price, your plane will fly empty and you'll take a massive loss. Forced, you drop your price too. This is an endless cycle. Airline companies connect the entire world. They give jobs to millions of people. But for their investors, they earn almost zero profit. They're trapped badly in the web of perfect competition. All the profit goes to customers in the form of cheap tickets, and the companies keep sinking deeper under the weight of debt just to stay alive. When we look at these two worlds, the question rises, how can we pull ourselves out of that painful competition and create a monopoly? To understand this, we have to return to the noise of the Indian financial market. Around the year 2010, India's stockbroking ecosystem was like a battlefield. Thousands of brokers were fighting to capture the same customers. Imagine a small call center where 20 people are sitting and constantly calling strangers. They're shouting, making false promises, and giving stock tips just so someone will open an account. Every broker was doing more aggressive marketing to look different. But in reality they were all the same. In the middle of this noise, Nithin Kamath stood with a very deep and different way of thinking. As an active trader, he had personally felt the pain when trading platforms were slow and brokerage fees ate up all the profit. Nithin decided to start Zerodha. But his biggest 0-to-1 step wasn't his technology. It was the decision that broke the rules of the entire industry. He decided they would charge zero brokerage for equity delivery. And most important of all, they would not spend a single rupee on marketing or advertisements. Feel the terrible loneliness and doubt of those early days. When you pour your entire life into building a product and launch it into the market, but you don't tell anyone. All the experts around you are saying that without a sales team and without TV ads, no business in finance can survive. You're staring at the server logs and waiting. This is the moment when most founders break and return to the old one-to-end path. They start running advertisements too. But Nithin stayed locked on his conviction. Slowly the magic began. The traders who used Zerodha saw that clean, fast interface. They received no fake stock tips. They received no harassing phone calls. This silence and transparency created a deep trust in customers' minds. One trader told another. That one told 10 more. While the other competitors were burning crores of rupees every day to pull in customers, Zerodha's customer acquisition cost was almost zero. They didn't fight the old players. They built an entirely new arena where they stood alone. They created a monopoly in discount broking that became almost impossible for any big bank or old company to shake. When you place yourself inside these stories, you have to face a deep psychological truth. When we think about our careers or startups, we often choose the path that is already built. Why? Because then we don't have to think about where we need to go. If you're a software engineer, you learn the same skills that the other 1 million people are learning. You console yourself that you'll work harder than them. But in reality, you're turning yourself into a commodity. You're throwing your resume into that pile where you have no separate identity. You're wasting the best years of your life in a fight where the prize for winning is only a little more work and a lot of exhaustion. If you truly want to build a happy and successful life, you have to step out of this addiction to competition. You have to ask yourself some very difficult and stinging questions. Are you doing something that no one else can do? Do you have some skill, some product, or some knowledge that is impossible to copy? Building a monopoly is not a one-day job. First, you have to find a very small and special market, a market that everyone else has ignored. In the beginning, it feels very scary. When you focus on a very small niche, it feels like you're leaving a lot of opportunities behind. Your mind tells you to make your product for everyone so you get more customers. But that is the biggest mistake. A product that is for everyone is actually for no one. You have to go so deep into that small market that for its customers no other option remains except you. When you lock down your monopoly in that small space, you gain the power, the profit, and the confidence to slowly conquer the rest of the world. This journey can never be traveled with the crowd. Monopoly simply means having the courage to stand alone. When you create something truly new, no one praises you at the beginning. No one tells you that you're on the right path. You have to learn to live with that silence and that doubt. This is the mental price you have to pay to create a new world. The capitalism we talk about actually means earning profit. But perfect competition destroys that profit itself. Therefore, competition is not the engine of capitalism. It is its greatest enemy. Happy companies are not happy because they fight better than others. They are happy because they refuse to fight at all. They poured their energy not into defeating others but into creating something no one can match. The time has come for us to leave this old way of fighting behind. We have to step out of the market noise where everyone is just copying each other. Real success is not about winning the race that everyone is running. Real success is about creating a new path on which you are the only person walking. Because in the end, history does not remember those who won the competition. It remembers those who ended the competition itself and gave the future a new shape. Chapter 4. The ideology of competition. Feel that moment when you're sitting in a very large and quiet hall. You're maybe 21 or 22 years old. Hundreds of other people are sitting around you who look exactly like you, dress exactly like you, and are thinking exactly like you. There's a strange stuffiness and tension in the air that you can feel on your skin. You can only hear the ticking of clocks and the rapid sound of keyboards. Your hands are soaked in sweat. You're taking your final assessment for a very prestigious corporate job. You glance sideways at the guy sitting next to you. He's typing very fast. Suddenly a strange panic rises in your chest. Your breathing becomes short and your heart starts racing. Without thinking, you also start working very fast. If you look inside yourself with complete honesty in that moment, you'll see a very terrifying truth. You don't actually want that job. You don't even know what that company really does or what happiness that work will bring into your life. You just want to beat the guy next to you. You want to win that race simply because everyone is running in it. You've become part of a fight that has no meaning. This is the moment when you completely lose control of your life. And this is the bitter truth we call competition. From childhood, the idea is driven so deep into our minds that competition is a very good thing. We're told that it makes us faster. It motivates us to work harder. We accept it as a rule of the market. But in reality, competition is not a rule. It is an ideology. It is like a mental illness that destroys our entire capacity to think and understand. It is a kind of addiction that convinces us that the only way to win is to defeat others. We forget to ask whether the thing we're fighting for even has any value. To understand this mental trap, you have to go deep into psychology. When we see someone else doing something, the mirror neurons inside our brain become active. Our mind is naturally designed to copy others. When you watch a small child fighting with another child over a toy, you think that toy must be very special. But in reality, there is nothing special about the toy. That child is only fighting because the other child put a hand on it. This is mimetic desire. We start wanting the things that other people want. And as we grow older, our toys change, but our mindset stays the same. We fight for university degrees. We fight for promotions. We fight for startup funding. We keep running in a blind race where the only prize for the winner is the chance to fight even more. Now place yourself inside a modern tech startup office. It's 2 a.m. You're the founder of the company. Your eyes are burning from staring at the screen continuously. You take another sip of coffee that has already gone cold and bitter. You're refreshing your biggest competitor's app over and over. Suddenly you see they've launched a new feature and cut their delivery fee by 10%. A sharp pain rises in your stomach. You feel like everything is going to end. You immediately call your tech lead, wake him from sleep, and say we need the exact same feature in our app by morning and we're cutting our fee by 15%. In that moment you might feel like a great warrior fighting to save your company. But take one step back and look. What are you actually doing? You're giving your enemy the right to make the decisions of your life. You no longer have any vision of your own. Every step you take is only a reaction to your competitor. Both of you are locked in the same cage and tearing each other to pieces. You're burning investors' money. You're destroying your employees' sleep. You're losing your mental balance. And all of this for what? Just to pull one customer to your side who will go to someone else tomorrow because they only care about the cheaper option. This is not business. This is collective suicide. Competition doesn't even let you think whether there is a path where fighting isn't necessary at all. To see the most terrifying form of this destructive ideology, we have to walk into the pages of history, into a small German city called Herzogenaurach. This story will shake you from the inside because it shows how competition can swallow people's entire lives. In this city lived 2 brothers, Adi Dassler and Rudi Dassler. Together they started a company making shoes. But soon a minor disagreement arose between them. The dispute grew so large that both created their own separate companies. Adi founded Adidas and Rudi founded Puma. Now stand on the streets of that small city and feel the tension. The river running through the middle of the city had not only divided the land but also the hearts of the people. The people of the city split into 2 sides. If you worked at Adidas, you could not buy bread from the bakery where Puma people went. If you were a Puma employee, your children could not play with the children of Adidas employees. Whenever people met a stranger, the first thing they did was lower their eyes and look at his shoes. The entire lives of both brothers shrank down to only one purpose: how to destroy the other. Adi Dassler would wake up every morning and stare out the window of his factory at Rudi's factory. He was ready to give millions of dollars to any athlete who would leave Rudi and wear his shoes. Both brothers threw all their wealth, all their energy, and their entire lives into this hatred. They had each other spied on. They stole each other's designs. They believed they were fighting the greatest business war in the world. But what was actually happening? While these 2 brothers were busy cutting each other's throats in a small German city, at the exact same time in Oregon, America, an ordinary young man named Phil Knight was selling shoes out of the trunk of his car. Phil Knight had no interest in Adidas or Puma. His entire focus was only on one thing: how to make the feet of running athletes more comfortable. He was pouring rubber into his wife's waffle iron to create a new kind of sole. He was thinking 0 to 1. By the time Adi and Rudi realized the world had changed, Phil Knight's company, Nike, had taken over the entire global market. The 2 brothers kept fighting their whole lives and never spoke to each other until the day they died. They were buried in the same cemetery in the same city, but so far apart that even after death their graves stayed out of each other's shadow. When you feel this story, the hair on your arms stands up. This was not just a fight between 2 brothers. It was the greatest proof of the blindness of competition that stops you from even seeing where the future is going. When you focus too much on your competitor, your world becomes very small. You start thinking like him. You start working like him. Your product, your marketing, your strategy, everything becomes a blurry copy of your competitor. You lose your real identity. In today's digital world, this blind race has become even more terrifying. Just look at the AI industry. When one company builds a new language model, overnight 10 more companies start building the exact same model. Feel the condition of those engineers who are destroying their nights of sleep just so they can score 0.1% higher than their competitor on some benchmark test. They are building the same kind of UI. They are giving the same kind of features. Billions of dollars of investment are being burned just to put each other down. In this entire race, no one is thinking whether we can use this technology to solve a problem that no one else is even seeing. They are all trying to force their way through the same door, and there is only bloodshed there. Competition confuses you. It makes you believe that if something is very hard to achieve, then that thing must be very valuable. But that is not always true. Sometimes even a pebble lying on the road can be very hard to pick up. But that does not mean it will turn into a diamond. We often throw our lives into markets where the profit margins are already close to zero, simply because we enjoy defeating someone else. This is our ego making us do all of this. So what is the way out of this swamp? The way is very simple, but walking on it takes real courage. You have to leave this fight. Whenever you feel that you are making a decision only because your competitor is doing it, stop right there. Take a deep breath and pull yourself out of that room. Step out of that mental tightness. Ask yourself a very bitter but true question. Am I doing this work because it is creating real value? Or am I just trying to win a game? When you reject competition, at the beginning you will feel a lot of fear. You will feel like you are being left behind. When you turn away from the crowd onto a quiet and unknown path, there is no one there to clap for you. No one is there to tell you whether you are right or wrong. You have to decide your own destination and make your own rules. As a founder or as a professional, your real job is to find that place in the world that is completely empty. You have to build a monopoly where there is no one around you to fight. If you run a restaurant and there are 10 restaurants around you, instead of fighting by lowering your prices, do something that no one else on that entire street is doing. Maybe you stop focusing on food and focus only on a special kind of coffee that cannot be found anywhere else in the whole city. You have to step off that battlefield where everyone is sharpening swords. Competition is a disease that makes us believe we are all the same and that we have to fight for the same thing. But the truth is that every person in every company is different in itself. When we understand our unique identity, we no longer need to fight anyone. We do not compete. We create. We do not wake up to defeat others. We wake up to change the world. The next time you are sitting in that quiet hall or going through tension in that boardroom, look at the people around you. They are all fighting. But you do not have to fight. You have to get up from your chair, walk out of that hall, and start your own new game. A game that no one else but you can play. Because history never remembers the names of those who run fastest in the crowd. History only remembers those who build their own separate road. Chapter 5. Last Mover Advantage. Feel that moment in your veins when you are standing at the starting line of a race. Hundreds of other people are standing around you. Everyone's muscles are tight. Everyone is just waiting for the sound of the gun that will signal the start of the race. Your heart is pounding in your ears. You feel that if you delay even 1 second in taking the first step, you will be left behind forever. In the world of business and startups, it feels exactly the same. Every founder, every entrepreneur has a terrifying fire in their mind. I have to reach the market first. I have to build the world's first product of this kind. Investors are shouting, launch quickly or someone else will steal your idea. Nights of sleep disappear. You build a half-finished product, write buggy code, and jump into the market without any solid foundation. In that moment you feel like you are winning. Your name appears in the newspapers. People call you the first mover. A huge storm of dopamine rises inside you and you feel like you have changed the world. But feel the terrible silence a few months later. Your product is constantly crashing. Your customers are frustrated and leaving you. And then another company arrives. It carefully studies all your mistakes. It reads your customers' complaints and launches a product that is 10 times better than yours. Overnight, that entire first-mover advantage of yours disappears into thin air. You sit in your own office watching your company sink, and there is nothing in your hands. That tightness rising in your stomach, that helplessness, teaches you the bitter truth that being the first to enter the field in any game is not a guarantee of victory. The real victory belongs to the one who leaves the field last. This is the deep truth we call last mover advantage. The whole world is crazy about becoming the first mover. We are taught that whoever comes first wins everything. But if you look deeply at the history of technology and business, you will see a very terrifying graveyard. This graveyard is full of first movers who created the market but could not stay alive themselves. In the world of social media, Facebook was not the first. Before it, companies like MySpace and Friendster had created a storm across the world. In the world of search engines, Google was not the first. Before it, Yahoo and AltaVista ruled the market. In video conferencing, Zoom was not the first. All these successful companies were actually last movers. They did not start a new market. They ended that market forever. They built something so complete that after them no one else needed to build anything new. To understand this even more deeply, we have to understand the most basic math of business. The real value of any company is not decided by how much money it is making today. Its real value is decided by how much money it will make 10, 20, or 30 years from now. In the world of finance, this is called discounted cash flow. Most tech startups only burn money in their first 10 years. All their profit is hidden in the future. If you rule the market for the first 10 years but in the 11th year a competitor comes and destroys you, then the real value of your company was zero. Being a first mover is only a tactic. A small move. But being a last mover is a strategy. It is the endgame where you build such a monopoly over the entire industry that no one can shake you. Now put yourself in Eric Yuan's place in the year 2011. You are sitting inside one of the world's biggest tech companies, Cisco. You are the lead engineer of WebEx, which at that time was the world's largest video conferencing software. You are sitting in front of your screen reading customers' emails. Every email is filled only with hatred and frustration. People are saying your software does not work. The connection drops and the audio cuts out. As an engineer, feel the shame when you know your product is bad but your company does not want to fix it. The executives at Cisco are saying we are the market leaders. We do not need to build anything new. There was a restlessness inside Eric Yuan. He decided to leave Cisco. Feel the loneliness and fear when you leave a safe and very large job and end up on the street. Eric started meeting investors. In every investor's room he entered, he received only one answer. People laughed at him. Investors said the video conferencing market was solved a long time ago. Skype is there, Google Hangouts is there, WebEx is there. You are very late to this market. You have no first mover advantage. No one will give you funding. Feel the despair when every sensible person in the world is telling you that you are wrong. But Eric Yuan was not thinking with the psychology of the crowd. He knew there were many products in the market, but none of them worked. He did not need to be the first mover. He needed to be the last person who would solve this problem forever. For years he focused on only one thing. He made sure that no matter how weak the internet connection was, Zoom's video should never freeze. He did no big marketing. He simply built a product that was 10 times better than its competitors. When the pandemic hit the whole world and millions of people suddenly needed video calls, all those first movers were left standing where they were. Zoom took over the entire world. Zoom proved to be the last mover because it made the user experience so perfect that after it no one felt the need for any other platform. To achieve this last mover advantage you need a very special kind of mental balance. Neuroscience tells us that the human brain is not built for waiting. When we see our competitors doing something new, the amygdala in our brain starts sending danger signals. We feel we are being left behind. We call this FOMO, or fear of missing out. Our mind tells us, do something, just don't sit with your hands folded. This is the exact moment when most founders panic and make the wrong decisions. They launch unfinished products. But the great founders have an incredible ability to tolerate this fear. They know that jumping into the market in a hurry is actually like showing your weaknesses to others. To understand this deep calm and discipline, we have to go inside Apple headquarters. It is the year 2013. A terrible noise about smartwatches is rising all over the world. A company named Pebble has raised millions of dollars on Kickstarter. Apple's investors are panicking. The company's shares are falling in the stock market because everyone feels Apple has lost its innovation magic and has fallen behind in the smartwatch race. Just imagine standing inside that secret design lab of Tim Cook and Johnny Ive. Outside, the whole world is screaming to launch quickly. But inside that room there is a deep silence. They know that the products their competitors have launched are really just small computers strapped to the wrist. Their batteries don't even last a day and they look extremely ugly. Apple's designers had no interest in becoming the first mover. They were quietly watching what mistakes their competitors were making. They understood that a watch is not just technology. It is a fashion statement. It is a companion for a person's health. They endured that heavy pressure for a full 2 years. Feel the mental strength you need when the whole world has already decided you have lost, but you are quietly building the future in your laboratory. And then in 2015, when the Apple Watch launched, it changed all the rules of the market. In one single stroke it threw every first mover out of the market. The Apple Watch defined the smartwatch category forever. Today the Apple Watch is the best-selling watch in the entire world, not just among smartwatches, but in the entire watch industry. Apple proved that when you become the last mover, you don't just sell a product. You lock the future of the entire industry in your fist. This last mover advantage is not limited only to big companies or technology. It applies completely to your own life and your career as well. Whenever a new trend arrives in the market, like the new wave of AI or a new programming language, everyone starts running in that direction like mad. People take a 2-day online course and start calling themselves experts. They want to be the first mover. They want the name of that new technology written on their resume first. But this is a very shallow way of thinking. Such people get replaced very quickly because they have only touched the surface of that trend. If you want to become a last mover in your career, you have to stop running with the crowd. When a new technology arrives, look at it carefully. Understand what the fundamental principles behind it are. While everyone else is only learning how to run the tools, you should go deep into the first principles of that technology. Develop yourself into the person who can do that work so excellently that after you, no one else even needs to solve that problem. You need the depth that comes from years of calm and focus. People who rush to become first movers often go very far in the wrong direction. But the person who makes his move at the right time with complete conviction ends the entire chess game in a single move. To become a last mover you need 4 very important things. The first is proprietary technology. Your product should be almost impossible to copy. It should not be just 20 or 30% better than an existing product. It should be 10 times better. When Google launched its search engine, their algorithm was so far ahead of every other engine at the time that users felt the magic on the very first try. The second is network effects. This means that as more people use your product becomes even more powerful and useful. When Facebook started with universities, every new user who joined increased the value of that network. A time came when if you were not on Facebook you were considered cut off from society itself. This network effect became so strong that it became impossible for any competitor to break into it. The third is economies of scale. When you build a software or digital product, your fixed costs can be very high. But the cost of giving that product to every new customer is almost zero. As your business grows larger, your profit margin also grows rapidly. This scale gives you so much power that no new first mover can match your price or your reach. And the fourth and most essential thing is branding. Branding is not just a logo or an advertisement. Branding is the name of the trust that a customer feels with your product. It is a psychological treasure that takes years to build. When people stopped using the word search for looking something up on the internet and started saying Google it, you understand that company has already become a last mover. It has made a place for itself inside the language itself. To bring these four forces together, you need a great deal of patience. You have to accept that in the beginning your path may feel very slow. When you are building a strong foundation, but today our entire focus must be on that indefinite optimism that has paralyzed our whole generation. When you accept that the future cannot be planned, you stop taking big risks. Instead of going from 0 to 1, you just keep circling in the safe maze of 1 to n. You think that sitting and relying on luck is the greatest wisdom. To feel this mental slavery more deeply, we have to go to a place where the human mind fights its limits every day. Let's step inside the neuroscience lab of a very large research hospital. Cutting-edge computers are set up all around and colorful pictures of brain scans are appearing on the screens. There is a strange tension in the air. For years science had accepted that when a person's brain suffers a major injury or a nerve is cut, that part dies forever. The entire medical community taught that a brain once damaged cannot be fixed. The whole medical industry was living in this definite pessimism. But Michael Merzenich was not ready to accept this established truth. He was researching on the brains of monkeys in his lab. Feel the silence of that night when he was looking at the neural mappings of a monkey's sensory cortex through a microelectrode. He had cut the nerves of the monkey's fingers. According to old medical science, that part of the monkey's brain should now have become useless forever. The doctors had said it was all a game of luck, whatever nerve was cut was cut. When Dr. Merzenich was looking at the screen, there was a deep restlessness inside him. He had not sat down relying on chance or luck. He had a very definite vision that the brain could reshape itself. He gave that monkey a special kind of training for weeks. He was constantly checking the data. Every morning when he came to the lab and saw no change on the screen, a deep frustration rose in his heart. Investors and senior scientists were saying he was wasting his time and money. Feel that mental pressure when the entire scientific community is standing against you. But Dr. Merzenich did not give up. And then one morning when he scanned the monkey's brain, the hair on his arms stood up. The part of the brain that had previously been connected to the fingers had now formed new neural pathways with other parts of the hand. The brain had rewired itself. This was the moment of the discovery of neuroplasticity that changed the history of medical science forever. Michael Merzenich proved that the brain is not a fixed lottery ticket. Through the right system, the right focus, and a definite plan, you can change even the physical structure of your brain. Now leave this scientific lab and walk into the glittering world of finance and investing where billions of dollars are moved every second. Let's go into an ordinary office in New York in the 1970s. The room is filled with files and financial reports. A quiet man wearing glasses is staring with extreme attention at a company's balance sheet. That success not coming into my life. At that moment, a very quiet and terrifying voice comes from the corner of your mind. That voice says maybe success is just a game of luck. Maybe that person was just in the right place at the right time. Maybe he was a lottery ticket that won, and you are part of a lottery where your losing is already decided. This is the moment when a person's self-confidence completely breaks and shatters. When you accept that your future is not in your own hands but depends on the toss of some unknown coin of fate, you fall into a very deep and dangerous mental trap. In business, startups, and our society, this debate has been going on for centuries. Whenever a big company succeeds or a person makes history, the people watching split into two groups. On one side are those who think it was all the result of that person's hard work, intelligence, and strategy. On the other side are those who see only the hand of luck behind every big success. They think success is just a coincidence. But this thinking is not an ordinary opinion. It is an entire ideology that decides how you will build the coming tomorrow. To understand this mental game, we have to look at a very deep framework from human history and philosophy that divides our way of looking at the future into four parts. The first view is definite optimism. This was a time when people had complete confidence that through hard work and correct planning they could build a very beautiful and definite future. They knew what the world would look like 20 years from now, and they were placing each brick of that future themselves. The second view is indefinite optimism. This is the biggest mental crisis of our modern world today. We believe the future will be better, but we have absolutely no idea how it will get better. Therefore, we make no big plans. We just keep many options open. We think that if we learn many skills and try our hand in many fields, luck will somehow favor us someday. We start treating ourselves as a lottery ticket and hope that our number will come up. The other two views are definite pessimism and indefinite pessimism. Indefinite pessimism: a person is certain that the future is dark, so he starts gathering his comforts and safety starting today, as can be seen in many European countries today. And indefinite pessimism is the most terrifying. There a person feels that everything is about to end, but he also has no idea when or how. So he completely sits with his hands folded. This is Charlie Munger. At that time, a new theory was becoming very popular on Wall Street called the efficient market hypothesis. The simple meaning of this theory was that no person can consistently make profits in the stock market through his own intelligence. The market is completely random. In other words, everything is a game of luck. If someone is becoming rich, it is only because his lottery ticket came up. Charlie Munger felt a deep anger toward this theory. He completely rejected this indefinite view of the crowd. He said that if you look at the market like a lottery, you can never become a true investor. He built an entire framework of mental models. He gathered the fundamental principles of physics, psychology, biology, and engineering and applied them to investing. Feel the tension in that boardroom when Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger were deciding to buy a company that every other investor considered completely sunk. People were saying the future of this industry is finished and these two old men's luck is about to run out. But Munger had a very definite plan. He knew that inside that business was hidden a very strong competitive advantage, a moat that other people could not see because of their haste. They put their entire fortune into that one decision. This was not gambling. This was not buying a lottery ticket. This was a very deep and definite understanding of the facts. The result was that Berkshire Hathaway broke every record in the stock market over the coming decades. Munger taught the whole world that a successful life is not built by coincidence. It is the result of years of strict discipline, mental clarity, and an unerring plan. There is another equally remarkable and inspiring story connected to India's world of science, the story of APJ Abdul Kalam. It is the year 1979. On the launch pad at Sriharikota stands India's first satellite launch vehicle, the SLV-3. This was a huge historical moment for the entire country. Dr. Kalam was the director of this project. He and his team had worked day and night for 7 years to build that rocket. The whole country was holding its breath watching this historic event. Feel the atmosphere inside that launch control center. The countdown was running on the computer screens. 4, 3, 2, 1, and the rocket lifted into the air. A big smile was on everyone's face. But only a few seconds after the launch, suddenly a warning signal started appearing on the computer screens. The rocket's control had locked up and it plunged straight into the Bay of Bengal. 7 years of hard work sank into the salty water of the sea in just a few moments. Feel that deep silence and despair on your chest when your biggest dream is crushed right in front of you. Hundreds of journalists were sitting in the press conference, ready to ask sharp questions. Dr. Kalam's legs were shaking. He felt his career was finished and India's space program would be shut down forever. But even in that difficult hour he did not accept it as bad luck and give up. He knew that a rocket is not a lottery ticket that will be decided by the direction of the wind. It is a definite framework of physics and engineering. Together with his team he analyzed every single malfunction in fine detail. They discovered that a small leak had caused the fuel pressure to drop. For a full year he poured his entire life into fixing only that one problem, without any distraction. And exactly 1 year later, on July 18, 1980, when the SLV-3 flew again, it placed the Rohini satellite into its exact orbit in space. Dr. Kalam proved that failure is not something written by fate. It is an opportunity to make your plan even better. When you have a definite mindset, you can turn any accident into a staircase. When we weigh all these great lives on the scale of our own lives, we feel the hollowness of our own thinking. Today's young generation is going through a very large mental crisis that we can call options. Every day we stay busy increasing our options. We think I should also do an MBA, I should also learn coding, I should also know a little design, and maybe I should start a backup business too. We tell ourselves that I am preparing for every situation. But what are you actually doing? You are afraid of going deep into any one thing. You are hiding the fear inside yourself that if I pour my entire life into only one goal and it does not work, then what will happen to me? This is where the biggest mistake happens. When you put your feet in 10 different boats, your drowning is already decided. To go from 0 to 1, you need a very definite and deep focus. You have to believe that the problem you are solving is the most important problem in the world, and you will only rest after solving it. You have to stop trusting that dice of luck that keeps you only as a spectator. A successful startup or a successful career is never a mixture of many small efforts. It is the result of one large, clear, and courageous vision on which you are ready to place your bet. For this you have to apply a very strict decision framework in your daily life that we can call the definiteness test. Pick up your diary today and make a list of all the things you are doing only because you feel they are your backup plans. Cross out all those backup plans. Remove from your mind that false security that is stopping you from becoming a master of one thing. Ask yourself, if you had only one chance, if there was no such thing as luck in your life, which one work would you do in the best possible way? When you close all your escape routes, an amazing energy flows through your mind. Your brain becomes fully active and you start seeing the solutions that the rest of the crowd never sees. We have to break the narrative created by this society that calls every great success just a coincidence. Luck only favors those people who have a definite plan to handle that luck. Even if a lottery ticket of 1 crore rupees lands in your pocket today, but you do not know how to build the future with that money will disappear in a few days and you will be standing back on the same street. Real wealth is not in your bank account. Real wealth is in that definite way of thinking that has the power to build an empire even from zero. The future is not something that is going to happen by itself. The future is a blank canvas on which every day your plan, your decisions, and your hard work fill a new color. Let the crowd shout that everything is a game of fate. Let them buy their lottery tickets and stand in lines. You have to step out of that line. You have to completely reject that blind race. Wake up the sleeping power inside you that knows you are not a helpless die being thrown by someone else. You yourself are the author of this game. Make your plan so unerring. Make your focus so deep that even luck has to come and kneel in front of you. Because in the end this world belongs to those people who did not trust any coincidence, but who planted the flag of a new future by placing their foot on the chest of zero. Chapter 7. Follow the money. Feel that moment in your breath when you are sitting exhausted in front of your laptop screen at 11 at night. Your eyes are burning and there's a dull ache in your back. Dozens of tabs are open in front of you. In one tab your online course is running. In another your stock market portfolio is open. In the third you are designing a logo for your new startup. And in the fourth you are trying to learn a foreign language. You feel very busy. You feel you are investing a little bit in every part of your life so that your future stays completely safe. From childhood one idea has been driven deep into your mind: never put all your eggs in one basket. You have been taught that you should always have backup plans in life. But when you close your eyes in the deep silence of that night, a strange restlessness rises in your chest. After working so hard, after learning so many skills, and after working on so many different projects, you still feel that you are not actually reaching anywhere. You are going around in the same circle. Your energy has been scattered in hundreds of tiny directions. You have become average in everything. But in no single thing are you so excellent that the world would stop for you. This is the painful truth that every ambitious person in today's world is facing. We have become so tangled in the safety net that we have forgotten the single rule that runs this entire universe. That rule is called the power law. When we are in school we are taught about the normal distribution or the bell curve. We are told that most things in the world are average. If you stand 100 people in a room, their height will be roughly the same. No person can be 10 times taller than another person. Our mind becomes used to thinking according to this bell curve. We feel there is a direct and equal relationship between our effort and our results. We think that if we put our time into 10 different things, each thing will give us a little benefit, and in the end we will become a successful person. We start living our life like a balanced portfolio. But the universe does not work this way. When it comes to wealth, success, impact, or innovation, the world does not follow the bell curve. The world runs according to the power law. This means results are never distributed equally. 99% of the decisions in your life or 99% of your investments will give you no special result. But that 1% decision, that one step of yours, will explode with such terrifying power that it will be 1,000 times larger than the combined results of your other 99% decisions. Accepting this truth is very terrifying for the human mind because it breaks every idea of justice and equality inside us. It tells us that the world is not fair. A handful of things produce all the impact. To feel this terrifying yet powerful truth in your veins, you have to step into the world of venture capital where billions of dollars are gambled every day. Imagine you are a partner at a very large venture capital fund in Silicon Valley. You are sitting in a magnificent boardroom. In front of you is a beautiful view of the city. But there is a terrible tightness in your stomach. You and your team have invested money in 50 different startups. You chose every company after a lot of careful thought. Your mind is telling you that out of these 50, at least 30 companies will succeed and each one will give you 20 or 30% profit. You feel safe because your money is spread out. But as time passes, a completely different truth starts appearing in front of you. In the first year, 10 of your companies completely sink. You remember the faces of those founders who were once so full of confidence, and today they are selling the furniture from their offices. In the second year, 20 more companies shut down. You start to panic. Your nights of sleep disappear. What will you tell your investors? The companies you once called the future are dying one by one right in front of you. By the third year, 40 out of your 50 companies are finished. The remaining 9 are just somehow staying alive. They are neither growing nor sinking. You feel your career is ruined. You are on the edge of giving up. But then that single company sitting in the corner of the portfolio does something you never even imagined. That company suddenly launches a product into the market that spreads across the entire world like wildfire. Its revenue starts doubling every month. Overnight, that company builds an entirely new market. When you look at your balance sheet in the 5th year, your mind is blown. That one single company alone has earned 1,000 times more money than all the money those 49 companies had sunk together. Your entire fund becomes the most successful fund in the world solely because of that one investment. This was not a miracle. This was the ruthless mathematics of the power law that teaches every investor through blood and tears that diversification is actually an illusion. In the world of venture capital, the biggest rule is not that you must put money into many good companies. The biggest rule is that you must put your entire attention on only those few companies that have enough power inside them to return the entire fund's capital by themselves. The investor who thinks he will reduce his risk by spreading his money everywhere always loses. Because when you put your money into things that do not have the capacity to change the world, you are actually only delaying the date of your own defeat. The power of this power law is not limited only to money or investing. This rule works just as ruthlessly inside the companies that rule the world. To feel this from a CEO's point of view, we have to go to Apple headquarters in the late 1990s. Steve Jobs has returned to his own company after 12 years of exile. But this is not the Apple he built. The company is standing on the edge of bankruptcy. Only 90 days of cash remains. Feel Steve Jobs' pain and anger as he stands in the boardroom looking at Apple's product lineup. The company is running madly in every direction. They are making dozens of different kinds of computers, printers, cameras, and collecting who knows what other junk. Every department has its own separate leader fighting to save his product. The entire company is a victim of a terrible illusion. They feel that the more products they have, the more security there will be in the market. Standing in front of that whiteboard, Steve Jobs made a decision that requires a heart of iron inside a person. He drew one vertical and one horizontal line on the whiteboard and made a grid. He said, "We will make only 4 products. One desktop for ordinary people, one desktop for professionals, one laptop for ordinary people, and one laptop for professionals. Everything else will be shut down right now, this very moment." Feel the silence in that room. Look at the faces of those managers whose years of hard work were thrown into the trash can in a single second. Steve Jobs wiped out 70% of his own company's products overnight. Thousands of people lost their jobs. Wall Street investors started screaming that Apple was committing suicide. When you shut down so many products, your revenue suddenly collapses. This was a decision that could drive any weak leader mad overnight. But Steve Jobs understood the power law very deeply. He knew that if the company kept dividing all its energy among those dozens of average products, it would never be able to build a great product. The money coming from those 70% of products was not actually keeping the company alive. It was sucking the real strength out of the company. Steve poured all the energy, all the engineers, and all the money into only those 4 products. The result of that painful focus was that Apple built machines as excellent as the iMac, and the company came back from the jaws of death. This is the finest example of the power law, where you kill 99 things so that one thing can be born that will change history. To understand this same power law from another angle, we have to look at the terrifying journey of Jensen Huang and NVIDIA that laid the foundation of today's artificial intelligence world. It is the year 2006. NVIDIA is a very successful company making graphics cards. Gamers all over the world are buying their cards, and the company is making good profits. Everything is running perfectly. But inside Jensen Huang, a completely different world is running. He does not want to stay limited only to games. He is dreaming a very large 0 to 1 dream. He sees that in the future computers will need to process a huge amount of data at the same time. He decides to build a software platform called CUDA that will give any researcher in the world the freedom to run complex mathematical calculations on NVIDIA's chips. This was not a small project. This was a decision that would change the entire direction of the company. Jensen started putting CUDA into every single chip, whether it was a cheap card or an expensive one. This made the cost of making the cards much higher. Feel that heavy pressure on your shoulders. You are the CEO of a public company. Your profit margin is continuously falling. Your investors are calling you and cursing you. NVIDIA stock is crashing face first in the stock market. Wall Street analysts are saying Jensen Huang has gone crazy. They are saying gamers have no need for this CUDA software, and the supercomputing market is so small that sinking billions of dollars into it is foolishness. For years Jensen stood alone in that darkness. No one understood what he was saying. Everyone was telling him to focus on the core business. Do not diversify. But Jensen was not diversifying. He was playing his biggest bet. He was waiting for the power law. He knew that if this one platform worked, it would become 1,000 times larger than all the other businesses of the company. And then in 2012 the miracle happened. An AI model named AlexNet defeated everyone in the image recognition competition. And it had done that work using NVIDIA's chips and the CUDA platform. Overnight, scientists all over the world understood that the processing power needed for AI exists only with NVIDIA. What happened after that is history. That one decision the whole world was laughing at became the most powerful part of NVIDIA's entire history. Today NVIDIA is not just a chip maker. It is the engine of the entire AI revolution. Jensen Huang had put everything on the line at that one moment, and the power law gave him the return no one had even imagined. When we hear the stories of these great figures, we feel these are only business matters. But in reality this power law applies just as deeply to your own life. Look carefully at your career and your everyday life. We are all living in an indefinite world. And we have been taught that for our safety we should keep many paths open. We do a good job, but at the same time we also run a small side hustle. We think we should also learn coding and also know a little digital marketing. We run our life like a hedge fund where a little money is invested in everything. But the price of this mindset is terrifying. When you divide your strength into 5 different directions, you can never cross the limit in any one direction where the magic happens. You never reach that tipping point from which the exponential growth of the power law begins. You keep sweating your whole life and you feel the world is doing injustice to you. But the world is not doing injustice. The world only rewards the person who has the courage to concentrate all his energy on a single point. To get out of this trap, you have to create a very cruel discipline inside yourself. You have to set fire to all those backup plans in your life that are giving you a false sense of security. Feel that pain when you permanently shut down some hobby or project on which you have worked for months. It is not easy. Our ego stops us from doing this. We feel that if we leave something, people will consider us failures. But in reality, the biggest failure is that you keep holding on to many things and never become great in even one of them. Do a strict audit of your life today. Make a list of all your work, all your investments, and all your skills. Then ask yourself a very ruthless question. Out of all these, which is the one thing that if it truly succeeds will make all the other work of my life completely irrelevant? Which is the one skill that if I learn in the best possible way in the world I will not even need any other skill? When you find that one thing, cut everything else out ruthlessly. Embracing the power law means facing that terrible loneliness and fear when only one path remains for you. When you put everything on the line, your eyes open completely. Your senses become sharp. You start searching for the depth in that work that the crowd never notices. The crowd always searches for safety. That is why it always remains average. But history only remembers those who go out searching for that 1%. And when they find it, they throw everything they have behind it. In the future, your respect will not come from how many things you did. Your respect will come only from which one thing you did that had the deepest impact on the world. So gather your paths. Focus your energy like a laser beam on a single target. Because all the treasure of the world, all the power, and the entire future is waiting for you only at the end of that one path. You just have to find the courage to recognize that path and walk on it. Chapter 8. Secrets. Just remember that day from your childhood when you first saw a map of the world. Maybe it was your geography class. You ran your fingers over that colorful paper. Every continent had a fixed shape. Every country had a set border and every ocean had a name. There was no empty space left on that map. From childhood itself, the idea is driven deep into our minds that all the discoveries of the world have already been made. We feel that people like Columbus and Vasco da Gama already found all the unknown paths centuries ago. Today, when you open Google Maps on your phone, you can find the way to every smallest street in the world. This sense of completeness has a very terrifying and deep psychological effect on our minds. We start to feel that we arrived too late to the party of history. We feel that there is nothing new left to discover in the world and whatever needed to be built has already been built. When you accept that the world is already complete, that restlessness, that fire, and that curiosity that drives human beings to create something new dies forever inside you. Society gives us only 2 pairs of glasses to look at the future. The first pair is extreme pessimism. This is the thinking that says the world is about to end. Everything is being destroyed and we cannot do anything. The second pair is extreme optimism. This is the thinking that believes everything will fix itself automatically. Technology will advance on its own and we just have to wait. But both of these views are actually an excuse. Both of them give us permission to do nothing new. The real truth is hidden somewhere very deep between these 2 extremes. We call it a secret. A secret is a truth that is very hard to find. But it is not impossible to find. It is a truth that no person in society will agree with you about. From the viewpoint of neuroscience, our brain hates secrets. The design of our brain is such that it wants cognitive ease, meaning mental peace. When we think something that goes against society's beliefs, the amygdala in our brain sees it as a danger. The brain feels that if we think differently from the crowd, we will be thrown out of society. Therefore, our brain constantly filters out and discards the signals that challenge the established truths around us. This is called the reticular activating system. We only see what we want to see. That is why the biggest secrets of the world are lying right in front of us. But we cannot see them because our brain has been programmed to ignore them. To feel this loneliness and this mental fight in your veins, you have to walk into a cold and gloomy medical lab of the 1990s. This is the lab at the University of Pennsylvania. It is 2 in the morning. Heavy snow is falling outside the window. Inside the lab there is that strange buzzing of fluorescent lights that makes the mind even more tired. A woman scientist named Catalin Carico is sitting on an old chair. In her hand is a piece of paper. It is another rejection letter. She had asked for a grant for her research and the entire scientific community has refused her again. Feel that terrible tightness rising in her chest as she reads those words. Every major scientist, every major doctor in the world has already accepted that mRNA technology is a dead end. Everyone says that when we put mRNA into the body, the immune system treats it as an enemy and destroys it. This is an established truth for the entire world. A truth no one wants to debate. Catalin Carico has been demoted by her university. Her salary has been cut. The people around her consider her a crazy woman who is wasting her entire life chasing an impossible dream. Feel that sensation of having the cure for the world's biggest disease in your hands, yet no one is ready to listen to you. You are banging your head against a wall that will never break. But Catalin had a deep conviction. She knew that nature held a secret. She knew that if she made one very small change in the molecular structure of this mRNA, the body's immune system would accept it as its own. This was a secret that nature had hidden very deeply and that seemed impossible to find. She did not give up. She worked for decades in that darkness and anonymity. Together with Dr. Drew Weissman, she worked hard to bring that secret out into the world. And then the year 2020 arrived. The entire world was caught in a terrible pandemic. The lives of millions of people were in danger. Then those same scientists of the world had to kneel before the same mRNA technology that they had considered trash for decades. Catalin Carico's secret became a lifeline for all of humanity. She received the Nobel Prize. But look past that glitter at that painful journey. If she had also accepted the map of the world as complete, if she had also accepted that everything in medical science has already been discovered, then perhaps the map of the world today would look completely different. This story tells us that nature's secrets are found by those people who do not let their own voice die in the noise of consensus. Finding nature's secrets is hard. But finding the secrets of human beings is even more terrifying. Human secrets are the truths that society hides from itself. These are the things that everyone knows, but no one wants to say out loud. To find these secrets you do not need any big laboratory. You only need to observe human psychology very closely. When society starts putting too much emphasis on one particular thing, understand that right behind it a very large secret is hidden. To understand this deeply, let's go to a small apartment in San Francisco in the year 2007. Two guys named Brian Chesky and Joe Gebbia are looking at their empty bank accounts. The first of the month is coming and they do not have money to pay the rent. There is a strange smell of dampness and despair in the apartment. They are staring at their screens and wondering whether they should give up and go back to their homes. A very large design conference is about to happen in the city and every hotel in the city is completely full. In that moment of desperation an idea comes into their minds. Why not put air mattresses in their living room and rent them out to those strangers who cannot find a hotel? Feel the established thinking of the world in that moment. From childhood we are taught only one thing: never talk to strangers and never ever let a stranger come inside your house. For every sensible person in the world this is an absolute truth, that people are dangerous. When Brian and Joe put this idea in front of investors, they received only abuse and laughter. Investors said, "You two have gone crazy. What person will go to an unknown city and sleep on the floor in some unknown man's house? This is not a business model. This is a suicide mission." In people's minds a hotel meant a safe place with security guards and a reception desk. But the investors were only looking at the rules the world had already made. Brian and Joe had discovered a very deep secret about human nature. They saw that human beings are actually very lonely. The person who stays in expensive hotels gets safety, but he goes through a very cold and mechanical experience. Inside people there is a deep desire that when they go to a city they connect with the real people there and live the real culture. Brian had found this secret: if you create a strong trust system through the internet where people can review each other, then a human being's desire to connect with others becomes far greater than his fear. On this one small secret they built the world's largest hospitality company, Airbnb. They exposed the lie of the world that strangers are always dangerous. They proved that when you give people a transparent platform, they are ready and waiting to trust each other. This was a secret that was hidden in people's hearts. But society's traditions had covered it with a curtain. Airbnb did not invent any new technology. They simply touched an unseen part of psychology. When you hear these stories, the question should also rise inside you: how can you dig up such secrets in your own life? This is not a magical process. For this you have to change the way you think. First of all, you have to stop looking at the places where the whole world is looking. Today, if you are trying to build a new language model in the field of AI, you are walking on a road where there is already a crowd of millions of people. There is no secret left there. There is only competition. Secrets always hide in the places that the world considers boring, strange, or useless. You have to search for anomalies, unusual events, in the world around you. When you see that some person or some company is doing something that does not look sensible at all, yet they are still succeeding, stop right there. Do not move ahead treating it as foolishness. Behind that anomaly a secret is hidden. Ask yourself, what is that thing these people know that the rest of the world does not know? When you are in business school you are taught how to manage everything efficiently. But secrets are not found in efficiency. They are found in madness and passion. Another very powerful way to find secrets is to ask yourself what society is treating like a religion today. When a rule forms in any industry where even questioning it is considered a sin, understand that the foundation of that rule has already become very weak. For decades it was accepted that only governments can go to space because there is no profit in it and the risk is very high. This was a sacred rule of the aerospace industry. But Elon Musk did not accept this rule. He looked carefully at the supply chain of space travel and found that rockets are not expensive because physics says so. Rockets are expensive because the companies that make them have become part of government bureaucracy. That was his secret that gave birth to SpaceX. Now the biggest and most terrifying question comes: when you find a secret, what will you do with it? Will you go out on the street and shout to everyone what you have discovered? If you do that, you will make the biggest mistake. When you speak against an established truth, society does not tolerate you. People will make fun of you. Your investors will demand their money back, and even your own people will think you are crazy. The human mind does not accept new ideas so easily. It can go to any length to protect its comfort zone. So when you find a secret, do not tell it to everyone. Tell it only to those few people you need to turn that secret into a reality. A great startup is nothing more than a secret conspiracy to change the world. It is a small tribe of people connected by a truth that the outside world does not know. When you build a startup, you are actually giving that secret a physical form. You do not explain to the world with words. You explain with your product that you were right and the whole world was wrong. The greatest tragedy of your life will not be that you could not do some great work. The greatest tragedy of your life will be that you lived your entire life believing that there is nothing new left to do in the world. You completely forgot to look for those empty spaces that were sitting right in front of you. The world is still incomplete. It is not a finished house where you only have to live as a tenant. It is a construction site where the greatest buildings still remain to be built. You just have to gather the courage to look outside that map. Shut out the noise of the crowd and listen to that quiet voice that is telling you the greatest truth is still hidden somewhere and it is only waiting for you to find it. Chapter 9. Foundations. Feel that cold and terrifying morning in your bones. You are sitting in the boardroom of a very impressive glass building in the city. Outside, a light rain is falling and drops of water are sliding down the glass. The air conditioning in the room is colder than necessary. In front of you on the table sits a cup of coffee from which the steam has already stopped rising. You are looking at the person sitting across from you with whom you started your company 5 years ago in a small garage. He is your co-founder, your best friend. But today he is not looking into your eyes. His eyes are fixed on those legal documents lying on the table. Around you sit the investors you yourself brought into this company. Your heart is pounding so hard in your chest that you feel every person sitting in the room can hear its sound. Your breathing has become heavy and your throat is dry. In the next 5 minutes you are going to be thrown out of your own company. The empire you built with your blood and sweat, today its doors are about to close on you forever. In that moment of terrible tightness and helplessness, your mind races backward at full speed. You wonder where exactly the mistake happened. Was the product bad? Did the market change? Did you not work hard enough? But the truth is none of those things. When you go deep, you remember the day when the two of you first met in a coffee shop. Both of you were very excited. You wrote the idea for your company on a napkin. That same day, a small question about equity and ownership rose in your mind. You felt that because you were building the technology, your share should be larger. But you did not say it. You thought it is only the beginning. Why put bitterness into the relationship by talking about money right now? You simply settled on a 50-50 split and started working. You feel that was a very small thing. But in reality, on that same day at that table in that coffee shop, you left a crack in the foundation of your company that 5 years later has brought this entire building crashing to the ground. This is the bitter truth that every person who wants to build something new must take into their heart. A company whose foundation itself was laid wrong can never be fixed. You can fix a bad product. You can change your marketing strategy. You can reach your customers. But if there is a mistake in the foundation of your company, as the company grows, that mistake will also grow larger. And in the end, it will sink the entire company with it. When an architect builds a skyscraper, he spends the most time and money on the part that no one ever sees. That is the foundation underground. If the foundation of the Leaning Tower of Pisa is only 1 degree wrong at ground level, by the time you reach the top, that error becomes several meters. Startups and new businesses work in exactly the same way. The decisions made in the early days seem very small. But they decide the entire structure of your future. Why do we become so blind at the beginning? To understand this, we have to feel the chemical storm running inside our brain that rises at the time of any new beginning. Neuroscience has told us that when we start a new venture or meet a new co-founder, a huge explosion of dopamine and oxytocin happens in our brain. It is exactly the same as what happens when you fall in love with a new person. Oxytocin, which we call the bonding hormone, calms the part of our brain that recognizes danger. Our amygdala stops working. We see only the good qualities in the person in front of us. We feel the two of us will change the world and there will never be any fight between us. Because of this chemical high, we become victims of conflict avoidance, the mindset of running away from confrontation. Our brain forces us to flee from any conversation that could become uncomfortable. We do not decide who will make the decisions if tomorrow the company starts sinking. We do not talk about whose final decision will count if a very big disagreement arises between us. We simply divide everything equally to maintain a false peace. But this is not peace. This is a bomb whose timer you yourself have set. When money starts coming into the company, when pressure increases, and when nights of sleep start disappearing, that oxytocin high wears off, and then the cruel truth stands in front of you that the two of you actually think completely differently. But by then it is too late. The legal documents are already made and you become trapped in a cage you built yourself. To fully feel this painful truth, we have to walk inside a company that rose to the sky faster than any other in the history of the world and then crashed to the ground in the most terrifying way. Let's go inside the WeWork headquarters of 2017. When you step into that office, it feels like you have entered a club. Loud music is playing. People are playing ping pong. Free beer and tequila are flowing everywhere. There is a strange madness and energy in the air. The company's founder, Adam Neumann, is standing on stage like a rock star and shouting that we are not just selling office space. We are elevating the consciousness of the world. You stand there and feel that energy. The hair on your arms stands up. You feel you are becoming part of history. The world's biggest investors are pouring billions of dollars into this company. The company's valuation has reached $47 billion. From the outside, everything looks like a miracle. But if you move away from that noise into the quiet corner of the boardroom where the legal documents are kept, you will see a very terrifying truth. The foundation of WeWork was filled with a poison that was eating it from the inside. Adam Neumann had designed the structure of the company in such a way that he had super voting rights. That meant the power of one of his shares was equal to 20 shares of the other investors. The board of directors had no power to stop him or even ask him questions. He changed the company's name from WeWork to the We Company and then collected millions of dollars from his own company for the trademark of that name. He bought buildings and rented them back to his own company. Feel the helplessness of those investors and board members who were watching all of this. They knew the company was becoming hollow from the inside. But they could do nothing because they had allowed the foundation to be set incorrectly on day one. They had given one man so much power that no one could control him. And then that cursed day arrived when the company filed its S-1 document to go public. Feel the terror of that moment in your breath. When financial analysts around the world read that document, they saw all the rot that had been hidden for years under that shiny glass building. Within just a few weeks, the $47 billion valuation fell almost to zero. Investors' money sank. Thousands of employees lost their jobs, and that dream turned into a terrifying nightmare. WeWork was not killed by competition. It was not killed by the market. WeWork was killed by the foundation that was rotten from the very first day. When you start a company, the first and most dangerous decision in front of you is choosing your co-founder. Choosing a co-founder in a startup is not like a business transaction. It is a deeper and more terrifying decision than getting married. When you get married, you spend part of the day with your partner. But when you start a startup, you spend 14 hours a day together in the same room. You face heavy stress together. You face shortage of money together. You cry together and you fight together. If you are making someone your co-founder only because he knows good coding or can do good marketing, you are committing suicide. Just imagine that suffocating moment when it is 3 in the morning. The server has crashed and your customers are cursing you. In a moment like that, you do not need a person who only knows how to write code. You need a person whose character can withstand that pressure, whose way of working and whose basic values match your values. If the foundations of the two of you are different, at 3 in the morning that night the two of you will grab each other by the throat. So before making any person a part of your company, go down into the darkness with him and see. Do a small project with him. See how that person behaves when everything is going wrong. Does he put the blame on others or does he take responsibility? These are the questions that decide the life and death of your company. After the co-founder, the second most important brick you place in the foundation is your board of directors. People feel that the larger the board, the safer the company will be. People fill their board with many famous people thinking the company will benefit from their names. But a large board is actually like a parliament where no solid decision can ever be taken. Feel the tension in that boardroom where 8 different people are sitting. Everyone has his own ego. Everyone has his own agenda. When the company gets trapped in a deep crisis and you have to take a big decision within 24 hours, those 8 people just keep arguing. No one wants to take risk. And in the middle of that endless debate, the company slowly bleeds to death. An ideal board should be very small. 3 people are the best. At most 5 people. When only 3 people are in the room, there is no place to hide. There is no politics. There are only hard truths. The job of the board is not to run the company. Running the company is the founder's job. The job of the board is only to see that the foundation remains safe. Boards exist only to make sure that the founder does not go crazy one day and set the entire building on fire. If you are a founder, you have to decide very carefully who you are allowing to sit on your board. One wrong investor who enters your board can turn your life into a living hell. He will stop you from doing every single thing that is necessary to go from 0 to 1, because his mind only wants the safety of 1 to N. How is this entire process done correctly? To understand that, we have to go to a place where a very unique foundation of creativity and business was laid. Let's go to the early days of Pixar animation studios. When Ed Catmull laid the foundation of Pixar, he faced a very large challenge. He knew that making animated films is a very terrifying and painful process. A film takes years to make and costs millions of dollars. If there is any weakness left in the story of the film, everything will sink. The established rule of Hollywood was that the director is God and no one can question his story. This was a structure filled with ego. Ed Catmull decided on the very first day to break this structure. He placed a very special system into the foundation of Pixar that he named the Brain Trust. Just imagine sitting inside that small dark screening room at Pixar. In the room are John Lasseter and some of the company's best storytellers. On the screen, the early version of Toy Story 2 is playing. The film looks very bad. There is no life in the story. The tension in the room is so thick you could cut it with a knife. The director's heart is pounding. In any other Hollywood studio, people would either give the director false praise or fire him. But Pixar's foundation was different. The single rule of the Brain Trust was that there would be complete and ruthless clarity. But that clarity would be without any ego. The lights in the room come on. No person attacks the director. They all attack the problem together. They say this part of the film is not working. Every person in that room feels that they are all in the same boat. No one is fighting anyone else. Instead, they are all fighting together to save that story. This is the magical moment when a strong foundation does its work. Ed Catmull decided on day one that at Pixar the story would be bigger than ego. And that same foundation pulled Toy Story 2 out of a disaster and turned it into one of the most successful films in the world. If that foundation had been weak, that tension would have turned the people in that room into enemies of each other. All these things bring us back and stand us in that same glass building boardroom where we began. When you are starting your company or any new project of yours, you have a very small window of opportunity. This is the time when the cement is still wet. You can still change things. You can still ask the hard questions. Do not let that moment go to waste. When you are dividing equity, do not think that giving every person an equal share is justice. Justice is that the person who is most necessary for the company should receive that much share. If a person is only going to work for the first year and you give him half the company, you have planted a time bomb in the foundation of your company. You will have to have a very bitter and transparent conversation with your early team. Learn to bear the sweat that comes and the nervousness that comes during that conversation. Do not run from the pain of that moment. Look into your co-founder's eyes and ask, if tomorrow the two of us have completely opposite opinions, how will we decide? If tomorrow the company's valuation becomes zero, will you still stand with me in this dark room? If while answering these questions you see even a slight doubt or fear in the other person's eyes, stop right there. Do not take even one step forward with that person. Foundation does not mean only legal papers. Foundation also means the culture you create on the first day. Culture is not something you write on the wall and hang up. Culture is what you do when things are going wrong. If from the first day itself you form the habit of hiding mistakes, the foundation of your company stands on lies. If from the first day itself you choose even a small path of deceiving your customers, later your entire company becomes a group of cheaters. The world of startups is a very ruthless and cruel place. Here, mistakes are not forgiven. The market is a monster that smells out every one of your weaknesses. When the winds blow hard and the storm arrives, the building that looks most beautiful from the outside does not survive. The building that survives is the one whose foundation is the deepest and the strongest. So do not sacrifice your future to haste. Stop. Think. And dig deep into the ground on which you are about to build your empire. Because once you have raised the walls on top of that foundation, you will never again be able to go back into that darkness and fix your mistakes. Chapter 10. The Mechanics of Mafia. Feel that moment when you stand in the elevator of a very large corporate building on a Monday morning. Inside the elevator there is a strange and piercing silence. No one is talking to anyone. Everyone has the company ID card hanging around their neck and everyone's eyes are fixed only on that digital screen showing the floor numbers. When you reach your desk, you receive several fake smiles and hollow good mornings along the way. You go into a meeting room and sit down. 10 other people are sitting there. But if you look deeply into their eyes, in reality no one is mentally present. Everyone is just waiting for the hands of the clock to move forward, for this boring meeting to end, and for them to go back and hide behind their computer screens. The moment it turns 5 in the evening, people run out of that office as if someone is being released from prison after years. If you look carefully at this entire scene and feel it, a very terrifying truth appears in front of you. This is not a team. This is only a crowd of strangers sitting under the same roof and selling the most precious and irreplaceable hours of their lives for a few rupees. There is no deep relationship between them. They cannot make any sacrifice for one another. This is a completely transactional relationship where the company gives money and the person gives time. 99% of the companies in the world work exactly like this. And that is exactly why 99% of the companies in the world never make history. They only stay alive. And one day they die in silence. Now close your eyes and take yourself into a completely different world. You are standing in a very small and stifling room. The air conditioning is not working properly and the air is filled with a mixed smell of stale coffee, sweat, and electrical wires. It is 2 in the morning. Your eyes are burning from staring continuously at the screen. 4 people are sitting around you. Their hair is messy. Their clothes are wrinkled. But on their faces there is a strange madness and a terrifying intensity. They are arguing with each other. They are shouting. But if you listen carefully to that shouting, there is no hatred or ego in it. There is only one stubborn determination to solve their problem. Standing in that room, you feel an energy that makes the hair on your arms stand up. You shiver deep inside. You know that if tomorrow the entire world stands against these 4 people, if all the investors' money runs out, still these people will not let go of each other's hands. These people were not working only for money. These people were putting their lives on the line for a mission. This is not a company. This is a mafia. This is the deep truth that separates the greatest companies in the world from the rest of the crowd. When we hear the word mafia, pictures of guns, crime, and bloodshed rise in our minds. But in the world of startups, mafia does not mean crime. It means a group that does not accept the rules made by the world. A group that has its own separate language, its own separate rules, and that looks like a cult or a mysterious tribe to the outside world. When you are trying to go from 0 to 1, you are creating a world that does not yet exist. For this work you do not need only employees. You need people who believe in that crazy vision of yours with the same blind faith that you have. From the viewpoint of neuroscience, our brain works in 2 different ways. When you are in a corporate job, the prefrontal cortex of your brain is most active. This part is responsible for logic and calculation. It constantly calculates how much salary I am receiving and how much work I have to do in return. But when you become part of a mafia-like team, your limbic system becomes active. This is the part of the brain that kept human beings alive in the forests thousands of years ago. This part controls the feelings of loyalty, fear, and belonging. When a startup truly becomes a cult, it awakens people's limbic systems. Those people start looking at their work not as a job but as a religion. To feel this deep and terrifying loyalty in your veins, we have to walk into a very secret and dangerous part of history. Let's go to America in the year 1943. The Second World War is at its peak and the air is filled only with the smell of death and fear. You are standing inside a very large circus tent in Burbank, California. Inside that tent there is terrible heat. The air is filled with the sharp smell of aviation fuel and melting iron that burns your lungs. This is Lockheed Martin's extremely secret Skunk Works project. In front of you stands a man named Kelly Johnson. He is not offering you a comfortable job or health insurance. He looks straight into your eyes and tells you a very terrifying truth. He says the enemy is building a fighter plane that can completely destroy our country, and we have only 14 days to build a plane even faster than that. Feel the pressure of that moment on your shoulders. The hair on your arms stands up. A strange stirring rises in your stomach. Kelly Johnson did not make any corporate rules. He threw all the bureaucracy out the window. Every engineer working inside that tent knew that he was not just making a part. He was saving the world. When you are sweating at 3 in the morning inside that tent with another engineer, a relationship forms between the two of you that is deeper than blood. You are both living the same secret. Kelly Johnson did not hire employees. He created a mafia. He chose people who could put their lives on the line to do the impossible. And that same mafia made history by building the world's finest fighter plane ahead of schedule. This miracle could never have been performed by any ordinary corporate team because they did not have that madness and that loyalty. That was the battlefield of war. But in today's digital world, this war has become even more psychological. To understand this modern mafia, we have to go to Silicon Valley in the year 2009. You are standing in a very ordinary and cheap office building in Mountain View. This is the early office of WhatsApp. Outside in the entire tech industry, a strange madness is spreading. Every new company is putting ping-pong tables in its office, distributing free food, and throwing big parties so they can show the world how cool their culture is. But when you step into the WhatsApp office, the silence there frightens you. There is no noise. There is no show. Jan Koum and Brian Acton are sitting at cheap desks and their eyes are fixed only on their screens. There is only one rule in the entire office that Jan Koum has written on a piece of paper and stuck on the wall: no ads. No games. No gimmicks. Feel the seriousness and the focus of that room. You are a coder there. You find out that the world's biggest investors are ready to give the company millions of dollars. But their condition is that advertisements or ads must be shown inside the app. In that moment, the tension in the room becomes so thick you can touch it with your hands. Everyone's breath is held. The temptation of millions of dollars can change anyone's integrity. But Jan completely rejects that offer. He says advertisements break the user's trust, and we will never do that. When you see your leader kick millions of dollars for his basic principles, the world inside you changes. You stop working for money. That limbic system inside you wakes up. You become ready to put your entire life on the line for that person. WhatsApp did not create a corporate culture. They created a digital monastery where every person was following only one religion. And that religion was user privacy and the finest messaging experience. When we live these stories, the biggest question rises in front of us: how can we create such a mafia in our own life or in our startup? It begins with hiring. In the corporate world, hiring is a very cold and mechanical process. You look at a resume in which the person has written all his degrees and his experience. You ask him some memorized questions such as, what is your greatest weakness? The person in front also lies with complete cleverness that he is too much of a perfectionist about his work. This entire process is a deception. Both sides know they are lying. But when a mafia chooses its people, it does not look at the resume. It looks at the fire inside the person. Just put yourself in that interview chair. The founder is sitting in front of you. He does not ask you which coding language you know. He looks very deeply into your eyes and asks a strange question whose answer 99% of the people in the world do not have. He asks you, what is one truth about this world that you believe but no one else believes? In that moment, the heavy silence that fills the room is your real test. The founder is actually searching for whether there is that madness inside you that can break the rules the world has made. He wants to see whether you can become part of that cult. If that spark is not in your answer, if you are only looking for a safe job, that founder will immediately show you the door. To join a mafia, skill alone is not enough. You have to be completely one in ideology. Even if you are the best engineer in the world, but you are not passionate about the company's vision, you are like poison for that mafia. You will destroy the energy of that team from the inside. When this mafia slowly starts to grow, another terrifying phase arrives. Imagine that your company now has 100 people. The pressure from investors keeps increasing. Suddenly, a new thing called the HR department arrives in the office. They start making new rules. They say working at 2 in the morning is not okay. We need work-life balance. They say that arguing sharply with each other is unprofessional. Feel that tightness when your small aggressive tribe starts turning into a cold and boring corporate machine. Your old companions begin leaving you because they no longer feel that excitement and that sense of belonging. This is the exact moment where most of the world's great companies break and scatter. Crushed under the weight of their own success, they become just another ordinary company. A great leader's real work begins at this very moment. He has to save that mafia from dying at all costs. He has to break the rules that are killing the soul of the team. He has to constantly remind his team that their real enemy is sitting outside, and if they let go of each other's hands, they will all be killed. You have to weave a strong thread among your people that sits far above money. They must feel that they are standing in a part of history that will never come back again. When they grow old and look back at their lives, they will not remember their salary or their vacations. They will remember those nights when they made an impossible work possible without sleeping. They will remember those companions who stood shoulder to shoulder with them in every difficulty. A real startup is a war, and a war can never be won with people who only come to mark their attendance. A war can only be won with people who are ready to jump into that trench with you and who know that there is only one way out, and that way leads toward victory. So gather your crowd. Throw out the people who do not understand your vision. And find those few madmen who sit with the same stubborn determination to change the world as you do. Because when a real mafia is born, the rules of the entire world change by themselves. Chapter 11. If you build it, will they come? Feel that terrifying and ice-cold silence sinking into your bones. For the past 2 years you have been sitting in a closed room. The world is moving outside. Seasons are changing. But you know nothing about it. Your beard has grown. Your eyes have become dry from the bright light of the computer screen. You have put all your money, all your time, and all your relationships on the line to build this one software. You are completely certain that you have built the world's finest product. Its code is perfect. Its design is so beautiful that the eyes cannot leave it. Today is launch day. With trembling hands you press the enter button on your keyboard and make your product live for the entire world. A storm of excitement is rising in your mind. You feel that in just a few moments there will be an explosion on the internet. Millions of people will rush onto your website. The servers will crash. Big tech blogs will write about you, and by tomorrow morning you will become Silicon Valley's new superstar. You lean back in your chair and start staring at your analytics screen. 1 minute passes. The number of active users on the screen is 0. 10 minutes pass. The number is still 0. 1 hour passes. A cold drop of sweat slides from your forehead down to your cheek. A strange knot forms in your stomach. That tightness and helplessness you are feeling in this moment is felt by every founder in the world who has fallen victim to this biggest and sweetest lie. The lie is that if you build something excellent, people will automatically come to buy it. This is an illusion that has murdered more dreams in the technology world than anything else. When you are staring at that empty screen, you understand that the world was not waiting for your product. The truth is that the world does not care whether you are even alive or not. Your excellent product has sunk into that endless digital ocean where every day millions of new ideas are born and die without making a sound. This is where the most bitter and most necessary truth of the business world comes forward, what we call sales or distribution. From childhood, our society, and especially the minds of people with engineering backgrounds, has been filled with a very deep poison about sales. We think selling is the work of people who cannot build anything. When we hear the word salesman, a picture rises in our minds of a person wearing cheap and flashy clothes who speaks very fast and who fools people into buying something they do not need. We feel that selling is a low work. A trick. Our ego tells us that our product is so great that it does not need any salesman. It will tell its own story. But look at this psychological blindness. All the great inventions of the world did not succeed only because they were excellent. They succeeded because behind them there was a person who knew how to sell the story of that invention to the world. In the pages of history, the story of Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison is the most terrifying proof of this truth. Nikola Tesla was a pure genius. His mind was far sharper than Edison's. But Tesla did not know how to sell. He remained lost in his own ideas. He felt that his only work was to invent and the world would walk up to him on its own. On the other side, Thomas Edison was not only an inventor. He was a fierce salesman. He knew how to extract money from investors and how to get news of his product printed in the newspapers. When Edison demonstrated the light bulb, he did not just light a lamp. He called journalists from the entire world, staged a spectacular show, and carved a picture in people's minds of what the future was going to look like. What was the result? Tesla died in anonymity and poverty, while Edison ruled the entire world. This world does not run on the principle of justice. It runs on the principle of distribution. If you are a founder in this moment, or if you want to build a company in the future, you have to completely tear that ego out of your mind and throw it away. You have to accept that selling is not dirty work. The best sales is actually so invisible that you do not even realize something is being sold to you. Just feel yourself standing in a very expensive and magnificent luxury car showroom. You went there only to look. In the air there is a light smell of leather and a very expensive perfume. No one bothers you there. No one puts pressure on you. One person approaches you with great politeness. He does not talk about the car's engine or its horsepower. He talks to you about your dreams. He asks what your old school friends will think when you drive this car to meet them. He builds such a picture inside your mind that you cannot leave without the keys of that car in your hand. You happily hand over the millions from your bank account and you feel that this decision was completely your own. This is real sales. This is not manipulation. This is empathy. This is understanding the deep fears and deep desires of the person in front of you that even he himself does not understand. To understand distribution deeply, you have to understand this mathematics. Every product in the world cannot be sold in the same way. The price of your product decides how it will be sold, and in this same mathematics 99% of the companies in the world get tangled and die. Let's feel the pain of this mathematics one by one. First, complex sales, the products whose price is in the millions of dollars. Imagine you are selling an enterprise software whose price for 1 year is $100,000. Feel the tension of that boardroom on your shoulders. You are sitting in front of the chief executive officer of the world's largest oil company. The temperature in that room is very cold. That executive has only 15 minutes for you and he is looking at you with very suspicious eyes. If in this moment you open your laptop and start showing him the new features of your software, if you start telling him how fast your code is, you will lose right there. That executive does not understand code and he has no interest in your features. He wakes up at night afraid that some new competitor might destroy his company. In that cold room you do not have to sell software. You have to sell him a new future. You have to make him believe that if he gives you this money you will save his company from that terrible destruction that is standing at his door. In complex sales it takes years just to close one deal. You have dinners with the board members of that company. You understand their internal politics. This is a psychological war. If you win in it, just one deal will carry your entire company for the year. In this game you do not need many customers. You only need a few right customers. Now leave this boardroom and walk into a completely different world. Imagine you are selling a software whose price for the whole year is only $1,000. We call this personal sales. This is the place where your product is not so expensive that a big executive will meet you and not so cheap that people will buy it automatically after seeing it on the internet. Here you need a very aggressive sales team. Feel the noise and the tightness of that call center. Your team is calling hundreds of strangers every day. People are cursing and cutting the phone. To fix every single meeting you have to pour blood and sweat. You are looking at your bank account. You also have to pay salaries to your employees and cover their travel expenses. Here a very terrifying mathematics appears in front of you, what is called the ratio of customer acquisition cost and the lifetime value of that customer. This is not a textbook formula. This is a game of life and death. Feel that to catch one customer, combining the employee's salary, the cost of advertisements, and the cost of meetings, It is costing you $80,000. But that customer is giving you only $1,000 in a year. You are losing $79,000 on every single sale. Terror runs through your stomach. The more sales you make, the faster you will go bankrupt. You have fallen into a trap where your victory is actually your death. And right in the middle of this mathematics there exists a very terrifying place that the business world calls the dead zone. This is the place where the largest number of startups in the world die. Feel yourself trapped in this swamp. Suppose you have built a very excellent software that is useful for small shopkeepers. You have set its price at $80,000. Now the problem is that $80,000 is such a large amount that no shopkeeper will take money out of his pocket without talking to a person and without seeing a demo. That means to sell it you will have to hire a person. But the terrifying truth is that for a sale of $80,000 you cannot hire an educated salesman. If that salesman spends the whole day chasing that shopkeeper and explaining to him, his salary and his expenses will become far more than those $80,000. If you run advertisements on the internet, Facebook and Google demand so much money for one click that all your profit burns up in advertisements. Feel that helplessness in your breath. Your product is very good. The shopkeepers also need it. But you simply cannot reach them because the mathematics of distribution is not working. You want to scream. But your voice is not reaching anyone. This dead zone is a graveyard where thousands of excellent products were buried because their creators thought distribution would happen by itself. They could neither keep an expensive sales team nor was their product cheap enough to go viral on its own. What is the way out of this swamp? If you are not selling a very expensive product, you have to step into the world of viral marketing. Feel that magical and hair-raising moment. It is 3 in the morning. You are looking at your laptop screen. Suddenly a new customer joins your system. Then that customer invites his 10 friends. In the very next minute 10 new people join. Those 10 people bring 100 more people. The numbers on the screen are changing so fast that your servers start throwing smoke. Your hands are trembling. You feel as if you have pressed the button of an atomic bomb and now this explosion has gone beyond your control. This is the magic of virality. But this magic is not a coincidence. It is designed. When PayPal began, the biggest challenge in front of Elon Musk and Peter Thiel was exactly this: how to bring people onto this new platform. They did not print expensive advertisements. They took a decision that every financial expert in the world considered madness. They decided that whoever opens an account on PayPal will get $10 free, and if he invites someone else he will get another $10. Feel that madness. You are throwing money out of your own pocket. Your investors are cursing you that you are burning the company's money. But those founders understood the power law and viral mathematics. They knew that once they entered a network of millions of people, that network itself would become a monopoly. Instead of giving money to newspapers, they gave money directly to their customers. The result was that within just a few months PayPal spread across the entire world like wildfire. They had woven distribution into the product itself. This is the deepest truth that you must permanently install in your mind. Distribution is not something stuck on the outside of your product. It is a part of your product itself. If you are building a software, you have to think while writing the code how this software will sell itself. If you are making any goods, then its packaging and its design itself should be its salesman. When you build a product, it should be such that the person using it is forced to show it to others. In today's digital world where every person has a smartphone and everyone is connected to the internet all the time, attention has become the most expensive thing in the world. You are not only fighting your competitors for people's attention. You are fighting Netflix, Instagram, and every video in the world that is appearing on your customer's screen. Feel that terrible battle. Your customer has only 24 hours in a day. His mind is completely exhausted. He does not want to think about any new product. Until you break that protective shield of his mind, even the world's finest product will keep lying in the trash can. You have to cut through that noise. If you have solved distribution, you can rule the world even with an average product. But if your distribution is bad, even the world's greatest product cannot save you from going bankrupt. Many founders think they will first build the product and then hire some very smart person to sell it. They think they will only enjoy the creation and someone else will do the dirty work of selling. This is the surest way for any startup to commit suicide. When you are starting out, the first salesman of your company are you yourselves. If as a founder you cannot sell your vision to your investors, if you cannot convince the best engineers to work in your company, and if you cannot sell your product to your first 10 customers, then you should not start any company at all. Learn to face that pain and that shame. When you show someone your product and he says to your face that this is nonsense, feel that rejection. That rejection is not there to break you. It is there to tell you what is missing in your product. When you yourself step onto the street, when you yourself look into the eyes of customers, then you discover the real truth that can never be learned in any closed room of an office. History has witnessed that the people who remained drowned only in the ego of their code, their machines, or their art were lost somewhere in the dust of time. But the people who understood how the human mind works, what that person needs and how to get their message across to them, they built empires. So step out of that closed room. Stop staring at that silent and cold analytics screen. Do not think that the world is waiting for your product. The world has to be woken up. It has to be shaken and it has to be convinced that what you have is the most necessary thing for its future. When you take this truth inside yourself, you will no longer remain just a builder. Then you will become a real future creator. Chapter 12. Man and Machine. Feel that terrifying and numbing sensation sinking into your spine. You are sitting at your office desk. It is 3 p.m. On your computer screen, a very complex and long report is open that you have been working on day and night for the past 2 weeks. You have poured all your experience, all your knowledge, and all your energy into this one task. Your eyes are tired and there is pain in your fingers. You feel that you are very necessary for this company. Right then your manager comes to you and turns on a new artificial intelligence tool on your system. He types only one instruction and presses the enter button. A loading bar spins on your screen for a few seconds and then suddenly a report appears in front of you that is far more accurate, far more beautiful, and far deeper than your 2 weeks of hard work. Feel what breaks inside your chest in that one moment. It was not just a report. It was your importance. A strange knot rises in your stomach. The air in the room suddenly feels very heavy. You feel you cannot breathe. A terrifying question starts echoing in your mind. If this machine can do my 2 weeks of work in 2 seconds, then what need is there for me? What is my future? Who will pay my children's school fees? What is my identity? This is the existential crisis that is destroying the nights of sleep of millions of people across the entire world today. We have started to feel that machines are our enemies and we are losing a war that we never even started. This fear is not new. If you go back into the pages of history, you will have to walk into those dark and smoke-filled factories of 18th century England. Just place yourself in the position of a weaver of that time. There was demand across the entire world for the cloth woven by your hands. You were an artist. You took pride in your skill. But then suddenly machines arrived that ran on iron and steam and made terrifying noises. Those machines produced in one day as much cloth as you could not produce in an entire lifetime. The weavers of that time, in panic, started breaking those machines. They felt these iron demons would starve them to death. Centuries later today we are standing in exactly the same mentality. The only difference is that today we are not going into factories with hammers. Instead we are pouring out our anger against machines on the internet. We are thinking that technology will wipe out human beings. But this fear stands on a very large and terrifying lie. It is an illusion that has blinded our entire generation. We have completely forgotten the difference between substitution and complementarity. Substitution means removing one thing and putting exactly the same kind of other thing in its place. And complementarity means two different things coming together and becoming a power that neither of them could have become alone. To feel this difference in your veins, you have to go deep into economics and psychology. When we talk about globalization, we are talking about substitution. Imagine a worker standing in America is removed and in his place a worker from China or India is given the job. This is the substitution of one human being by another human being. Why? Because the capabilities of the American person and the Indian person are exactly the same. Both have the same kind of mind, the same kind of emotions, and the same kind of needs. Only one costs more and the other costs less. Therefore, in globalization, human becomes the enemy of human. There, the victory of one means the defeat of the other. But a machine is not a human being. People think artificial intelligence is like us, only that it is faster than us. This is the greatest foolishness of the century. Human and machine are two completely different species of the world. Just think what a human has. We have consciousness, emotions, the power to understand context. And the greatest thing, we have intention. We know why we are doing any work. We can make complex plans. We can feel pain. But a human is very weak in one place. We cannot remember a large amount of data at the same time. We cannot solve millions of equations in 1 second. We get tired. We get bored and we make mistakes. On the other side, look at the machine. The machine has no intention. It does not know what it is doing or why it is doing it. It has no consciousness. Even if a computer gathers the entire knowledge of the world inside itself, it still does not know what to do with that knowledge. But it can perform billions of calculations in 1 second. It never gets tired. It never gets bored. If you look carefully, the work that is hardest for a human is the easiest for a machine, and the work that is easiest for a human, such as understanding another human's emotion or walking on an unknown path, is almost impossible for a machine. We are not each other's enemies. We are each other's best companions. When human and machine come together, they do not replace each other. Instead, they erase each other's weaknesses and create a superpower that no challenge in the world can defeat. To see this magical and terrifying superpower working in real life, let's go to Silicon Valley in the year 2000. You are standing in the server room of PayPal's headquarters, where the temperature is kept very low so the machines stay cool. But the engineers inside the room are soaked in sweat. There is a terrifying panic and tightness in the air. The company is suffering a loss of $10 million every month. This money is not going into any marketing campaign. This money is being stolen. Extremely cunning hackers from Russia and Eastern Europe have entered the system, and they are continuously committing credit card fraud. Feel the mental pressure of Max Levchin and Peter Thiel. They have only a few weeks of money left. If this theft is not stopped, the company will go bankrupt and their entire dream will turn to ash. To stop this theft, they employed the world's best mathematicians and built an automated algorithm. They thought the machine would catch these thieves by itself. The machine would examine millions of transactions and stop the theft. But that algorithm did not work. Why? Because the thieves sitting in front of the machine were not machines. They were human beings. Feel the cunning of those hackers. The moment PayPal's algorithm blocked one of their methods, the next minute those hackers changed their method. They created new patterns. They were using that terrifying creativity of the human mind that no machine can ever understand. The machine could only catch the patterns that had already happened. But a human could think what had never happened before. PayPal's automated algorithms had completely lost. Right then, in that despair and under the shadow of death, a revolutionary idea came into Max Levchin's mind. He said, why are we trying to defeat humans with machines? Why not combine machines and humans? He built a new system that he named Igor, which was the name of a famous Russian hacker. This was the world's first hybrid system. Watch that magic unfold in front of your eyes. Now the machines were no longer making decisions by themselves. The only work of the machines was to analyze the millions of transactions happening every second and highlight and read those transactions that looked even slightly strange or unusual. The machine did the work of finding the needle in the haystack that no human could ever do. But the final decision was not the machine's. A human analyst looked at that red alert on his screen. That analyst had human intuition. He understood the story of that transaction. When the power of the machine's billions of calculations and the power of human intuition came together, an explosion happened. Within just a few days, PayPal caught and destroyed all those gangs of thieves. They did not only save their company. They taught the world that the future belongs neither completely to humans nor completely to machines. The future belongs to that hybrid where human and machine become complementary to each other. After this victory, this philosophy did not remain limited only to finance. The PayPal mafia took this principle and built a company that changed the entire security structure of the world. That company's name was Palantir. Just feel yourself standing inside an extremely secret and secure bunker of an American intelligence agency. Outside in the world, the shadow of terrorism is hovering. In front of you, dozens of screens are mounted. Everyday data is coming from around the world, millions of phone calls, emails, bank transfers, and satellite images. You are an intelligence analyst. Your eyes are red and your mind is ready to explode. Somewhere inside the data you have is hidden the plot of the next large terrorist attack. But that data is so large that even if you take 100 births, you still cannot read it. You are drowning in that endless ocean, and you know that because of one mistake of yours, thousands of innocent people can be killed. Feel that terrible responsibility and helplessness on your shoulders. And then Palantir's software arrives in that bunker. This software does not read that data and announce decisions. It does not push the human aside. What it does is turn the relationships among those millions of scattered data points into a beautiful visual map. Suddenly that analyst sees on his screen that an unknown person sitting in Syria is sending money into some bank account in America, and at the same time a third person is buying certain chemicals from some unknown website. The machine has only connected those points. But when that human looks at that screen, his human mind immediately understands the story that the machine can never understand. That analyst immediately sounds the alarm, and a very large attack is stopped before it can happen. Feel the tears in that analyst's eyes in that moment, the relief that comes. That machine had not taken his job. That machine had given him a godlike power with which he saved thousands of lives. The world also saw this union of human and machine on the chessboard in a very painful and then beautiful way. Remember that famous event of the year 1997. The world's greatest chess player Garry Kasparov is sitting in front of IBM's Deep Blue supercomputer. Kasparov's forehead is covered in sweat. The eyes of the entire world are fixed on that board. And then the moment arrives when the machine wins. Kasparov loses. Newspapers around the world printed the next day that the human mind has been defeated forever, and now the reign of machines will begin. This was a deep psychological defeat. But Kasparov did not give up. He understood that the machine's power is in calculation. But in strategy and intuition, the human is still ahead. He started a new form of chess called Centaur chess. In it, a pair of one human and one computer fights against another pair of human and computer. When these tournaments happened, a very surprising truth came out. Even the world's best supercomputer lost to a pair of an ordinary human and an ordinary computer. Let this truth sink deep inside you. A machine can never defeat a combination of a human and a machine. The human gives the machine the direction that the machine does not have, and the machine gives the human the speed that the human does not have. Together they become the most invincible power in the universe. To understand this deeply, let's go into a hospital of today's time. It is 4 a.m. You are a radiologist. In the past 12 hours you have looked at X-rays and MRI scans of hundreds of patients. Your eyes are blurring and your mind has become numb with exhaustion. In front of you comes the scan of a 40-year-old woman who has 2 small children. You look at that scan. To your tired mind, everything looks normal. You are just about to write clear and move ahead. But right then the artificial intelligence present in your system draws a light red circle on a very small and blurry corner of that scan. It is such a subtle change that even the world's best doctor could not have seen it with his tired eyes. The machine does not know what death is. The machine does not know what will happen to that woman's children. It does not care about anything. It has only highlighted a mathematical probability on the basis of data from millions of scans. But when you look at that red circle as a human and as a doctor, your sleep completely disappears. You look closely at that part. You see that tumor that is still in its absolute earliest stage. You immediately start the treatment of that woman. Feel the depth of that moment and that emotion when a few weeks later that woman is sitting in front of you and you tell her that the disease has been completely eliminated and she will live a long life. The tears of gratitude in that woman's eyes, are they for that machine? No. Those tears are for you. That machine did not take your place. That machine put into your hands a magical wand for saving lives that never existed before in the history of humanity. In the same way, just glance into the world of law. A young lawyer has to read millions of emails and documents to prepare for a very large case. For a human being, this work would take years. He would spend his entire youth in those piles of paper. But today a machine reads those millions of papers in just a few minutes and finds that one email in which the real evidence is hidden. But when that evidence is presented in front of the judge inside the court, that machine cannot stand there and argue. The machine does not have the passion, the anger, and the cry for justice that exists in a human voice. That lawyer combines that evidence with his human emotions and wins the case. The machine did not finish the lawyer. The machine gave the lawyer the time and the power with which he could deliver real justice. Today, when we talk about artificial intelligence, many people in Silicon Valley are trapped in a very dangerous and misleading ideology. They are trying to build strong AI. Their dream is to create a computer that can think exactly like a human and can do all the work like a human. They want to build cars in which there is no place for a human to sit. They want to build factories where not even a single human is present. This thinking is actually a very distorted form of an old and rotten mentality. These people do not actually want to build something new. They only want to remove the human from the old world and put a cheaper machine in his place so that profit can be increased. This is the disease of cost cutting. When you build technology only to save money, you are not building the future. You are only making the present a little cheaper. This is not the journey from 0 to 1. This is only the journey from 1 to n, where the value of the human is reduced to 0. But the real and great founders never think of removing the human. They ask themselves a very deep and difficult question. They ask, what work does a human want to do today that is impossible for him? And what machine can I give him that will make that impossible work possible for him? The real purpose of technology is not to make us weak or to prove us useless. The real purpose of technology is to further polish that humanity, that creativity, and that compassion inside us that we were losing in everyday boring work. When machines do all the mathematics, all the data, and all the exhausting work for us, then we will have the time and the energy left in which we can do the work that only a human can do. We will be able to write new stories. We will be able to see new dreams, and we will be able to solve those mysteries of the universe that a machine can never reach. Leave your fear. Stop panicking when you look at the machine's screen. It is not a sign of your downfall. It is the door to a new era. An era where human and machine will together forge a future that cannot even be imagined in any science fiction. You just have to extend your hand and make that machine your companion. Those who will fear the machines will be left behind. But those who will make the machines their weapon will become the gods of the coming tomorrow. In the future, the fight is not going to be between human and machine. The real fight will be between those humans who know how to use machines and those humans who run away in fear of machines. Which side do you want to stand on? You have to make this decision today itself. Chapter 13. Seeing green. Feel that pleasant and shining atmosphere in front of your eyes. It is the year 2008. You are standing in the banquet hall of a very expensive and luxurious hotel in Silicon Valley. In your hand is a glass of champagne. Around you are the world's biggest investors, politicians, and celebrities. Everyone is smiling. Everyone is congratulating each other. Green light has been put up everywhere in the hall and large posters about saving the earth are hanging on the walls. You are the founder of a clean tech company. You have just raised millions of dollars from investors. There is a strange intoxication inside you. This is not only the intoxication of money. This is the intoxication of moral superiority. You feel that you are not only going to become a billionaire. You are the Messiah who is going to save the entire world from global warming. You see yourself being recorded in the pages of history. You feel that your purpose is so pure that both nature and the market will be forced to bow in front of you. But just turn the wheel of time only 4 years forward. Feel that terrible and cold morning of the year 2012 sinking into your bones. You are standing outside the factory of that same company of yours. But today there is no champagne there. There is no celebration. There is a terrible and piercing silence. Heavy locks are hanging on the massive iron doors of the factory. The ultra-modern machines that you bought for millions of dollars are today being auctioned and sold at scrap prices. Your employees who once dreamed of changing the world are today standing unemployed on the street. There are tears in their eyes and they are demanding answers from you. On the pages of newspapers, your company is being printed as a scam and a terrible failure. All the money of your investors has flown into the air. Exactly the same thing happened with dozens of companies like Solyndra. Feel that helplessness, that tightness, and that chest-tearing pain when your most sacred and greatest dream collapses like a house of cards right in front of you. A scream rises in your mind. Where exactly did the mistake happen? We were doing good for the world. Our intention was completely pure. Then why did the market treat us so cruelly and mercilessly? This is the biggest and most dangerous psychological illusion that completely blinds people in the world of business. We call it the illusion of social entrepreneurship. When you do work that is very good for society, your mind plays a very dangerous game. It convinces you that because your purpose is so great you do not need to follow those cruel and cold rules of business. You feel that the sympathy of the world, the subsidies of governments, and the praise of the media will save you. But the terrifying truth is that the market has no heart. The market does not care whether you are saving the world or destroying the world. The market understands only one language, and that language is basic mathematics and ruthless economics. The clean tech bubble did not burst because their purpose was wrong. It burst because those thousands of founders, blinded by that enthusiasm and arrogance, ignored those 7 fundamental questions that are the most necessary for any company to stay alive. These 7 questions are the ruthless laws of business that if you break them, they break you. Let's go one by one into the terrifying depth of these 7 questions where the world's greatest companies are buried, and feel what price has to be paid for ignoring those questions. The first question is the question of engineering. Have you built a technology that is 10 times better than the technology that already exists? Just stand in the bright light of that laboratory and look. You are building a solar panel. Your engineers come to you very happily. They say the panel we have built produces 20% more electricity than the panels existing in the market. A wave of happiness runs through you. You immediately launch it into the market. But when you go to a customer, feel that shame and frustration. You tell the customer that our panel is 20% better. But the customer asks you whether the cost of installing it is also the same as the old technology. And you have to lower your eyes and say no, the cost of installing our panel is much higher. The customer shuts the door in your face. In that moment you understand that a 20% improvement cannot force anyone to change their old method. If you are in the energy market, which is a commodity market where people only care about electricity and not about its source, then your technology either has to be 10 times more effective or 10 times cheaper. If you are only making a small improvement, then in reality you are doing nothing. The clean tech companies made exactly this heavy mistake. They built products that were very expensive and whose benefit compared to old fuels was very small. People clearly refused to empty their pockets in the name of the environment. The second question is the question of timing. Is this the right time to bring this technology into the market? Feel in your mind that terrible pressure and the sound of that ticking clock when you are waiting for a wave that never comes. In the beginning of the 2000s, the clean tech founders felt that the world would change overnight. They felt that governments would immediately shut down petrol and coal and the era of solar energy would begin tomorrow morning. Blinded by this illusion, they quickly set up their massive factories and took billions of dollars in debt. But the world does not change that fast. When you do any work connected to infrastructure, the change is very slow. The laws of governments do not change overnight. The old energy companies have the power of trillions of dollars, and they do not give up so easily. Feel that tightness when your factories are ready, your product is ready, but the customer is saying we will still use the old technology for another 10 years. Your money is burning every day. You are being crushed under the heavy interest of the debt. You had predicted the future correctly, but your mathematics of timing was completely wrong. You could not even stay alive until that future because you came into the market far too early. You drowned in the ocean before that wave. The third and most terrifying question is the question of monopoly. Are you starting as a very large player in a very small market? Feel the atmosphere of that boardroom where a founder is proudly giving a presentation to his investors. He shows a very large number on the screen and says the energy market is several $trillion. If we capture even 1% of this market, we will become billionaires. This statement sounds so logical and safe to hear. But in reality it is a direct death sentence. Feel that terrifying swamp into which that company is about to jump. When you go to take 1% of a $1 trillion market, it means you are jumping into an ocean where thousands of ferocious sharks are already present. You have no monopoly. You have no special customer who will come only to you. You are fighting companies from China that are making goods 10 times cheaper than you. You are fighting the oil wells of the Middle East whose cost is almost zero. In that ocean, every drop of your blood will be squeezed out and your profit will fall to zero. Great companies do not start from a $1 trillion market. They start from a very small and special market that they can completely dominate and then slowly expand from there. The fourth question is the question of people. Are the right people present in your team? Just step inside the massive and shiny office of a clean tech company. What do you see there? There are fewer engineers or scientists and more salesmen wearing suits. The chief executive officer of the company is not a technology expert. He is a politician or an old corporate executive who only knows how to stand on a stage and give speeches and extract government subsidies. Feel that cultural poison in your breath. When a technology company is run by people who do not even know the basic laws of physics, then that company is not actually building any technology. It is only performing a marketing show. You can fool investors. You can fool governments. But you cannot fool the laws of nature and science. When in a board meeting the discussion starts about what color our people should be instead of how the chemical structure of our battery will work, understand that the death of that company is decided. Exactly this happened in clean tech. Their false claims took the place of innovation. The voice of the engineers was suppressed by those people who only knew how to make beautiful PowerPoints. It was a hollow structure that was bound to collapse one day. The fifth question is the question of distribution. Do you have any unerring and cheap way of reaching your product to customers? Feel that helplessness when you build the world's finest and cheapest solar panel. You are happy keeping it in your warehouse. But when you go out to sell it, you discover that every house in the world is different. The shape of every house's roof is different. The owner of every house thinks in a different way. You have to go house to house explaining to people. You realize that the cost of selling it and installing it on the roof of the house is coming out higher than the cost of making that panel. You have to fight with local contractors. You have to face bad weather and the panels break on the roofs. All your profit is finished in that terrible system of distribution. You were making a very good product, but you forgot how that product will reach the customer's hands. In the field of energy distribution does not mean only giving advertisements on television. It means understanding the power grid, working with governments, and building a very large army of contractors who can deliver your product to the right place. If you do not have any solid method of distribution, even your finest product will rot sitting in that warehouse and you will go bankrupt. The sixth question is the question of durability. Will your business still stand in the same way 10 or 20 years from now? Just remember that cold night when you are sleeping peacefully and suddenly your phone rings. You receive the news that the government of China has given its solar companies a massive subsidy of $50 billion. China's factories overnight flood the world with panels so cheap that you cannot even recover your cost. Feel the ground sliding out from under your feet in that moment. The business structure you built becomes trash in a single stroke. You never even thought that other people in the world could also do the same work you are doing. You had no protective shield that could save you from those unknown attacks of the future. If your technology can be easily copied, if anyone can adopt your way of working, then your profit is only a guest for a few days. Great companies are not built only for today. They build their impregnable fortress keeping in mind all those terrifying scenarios of the future where they can still stand as the last person. And the seventh question is the question of secrets. Do you know something that no other person in the world knows? In the case of clean tech, this question became the biggest joke. Feel the tightness of that echo chamber. Everyone was saying the same thing, that the world needs clean energy. This was not a secret. Every politician, every journalist, every child, and every ordinary person knew this. When you build your entire business on something that everyone already knows, you are not actually creating any new value. You are only becoming part of that crowd that is trying to exit through the same door and where there is only the fear of being crushed. A great company is always built on a deep and unseen secret that the rest of the world considers foolishness or impossible. If you are doing the same thing that everyone is doing, you can never go from 0 to 1. In that terrifying graveyard of these 7 questions where the corpses of thousands of clean tech companies were lying, there was one company that answered all these questions with such ruthlessness and such precision that it changed the very course of history. Let's go into the middle of that deep economic crisis of the year 2008. The economy of the entire world is frozen. Decades-old giant car companies like General Motors and Chrysler are going bankrupt. And in the middle of this silence of death, one man is putting everything on the line and insisting on building a completely new world. That man is Elon Musk. And the name of his company is Tesla. Feel that psychological stress and that chest-tearing pain standing in Elon Musk's place. He has only a few weeks of money left. It is Christmas time and he feels that both of his companies, SpaceX and Tesla, are about to end. The entire world is calling him crazy. People are saying that 100-year-old car companies cannot survive. How will a new car company survive? And that too, a car that runs on electricity. History was witness that an electric car meant a slow, ugly vehicle like a golf cart that only people bought who wanted to put on a false show of saving the environment. But Tesla completely rejected that moral arrogance of clean tech. They did not sell cars by selling people a sense of guilt. They answered those 7 questions. On the engineering question, Tesla did not just build an ordinary battery. They combined thousands of small lithium-ion batteries to create a battery pack that was 10 times better than any technology of that time. They built an engine that was more powerful than any petrol car. On the timing question, they took a large loan from the American government at the right time, when governments were desperate to promote clean energy, and then used that money to strengthen their foundation. They even repaid that loan ahead of schedule. On the monopoly question, Tesla did not make the foolishness of fighting the entire world's car market. They chose a very small market, the market of expensive luxury sports cars. They built the Roadster whose price was $100,000. This was a market where they had no competitor. They completely monopolized that small market and from there earned profit and began making cheaper cars. On the people question, there were no suit-wearing politicians in Tesla's office. There were the world's best and craziest engineers who were putting their lives into writing code and playing with the laws of physics. They had a passion that no other car company in the world possessed. On the distribution question, Tesla completely refused to accept the old and corrupt structure of car dealers. Feel that revolutionary decision. They said, we will sell our own cars. They opened their own beautiful stores just like Apple. They did not leave distribution in anyone else's hands. On the durability question, they did not just build a car. They laid a network of superchargers across the entire world so that even if any other company builds an electric car, they will still have to kneel in front of Tesla's infrastructure. Their brand became so strong that people began treating Tesla not as a car but as a lifestyle. And finally, the question of secrets. What was Tesla's secret? Tesla's secret was that people do not want to compromise their comforts for the sake of saving the environment. Tesla understood that if you want to sell an electric car, do not sell it in the name of the environment. Build it as the world's fastest, most beautiful, and finest car and then sell it. The environment is only a bonus. Feel that shiver on your skin when a person first puts his foot on the accelerator of a Tesla Roadster. There is no sky-splitting sound of the engine. There is no vibration. But the car starts talking to the wind in a single stroke. The G-force pushes you into the seat. That person's mind goes blank. He understands that this is not a compromise. This is pure power. This is the future. Tesla permanently erased from people's minds that old, slow and boring picture of electric cars. The deepest and most bitter truth we learn from this entire terrifying and then inspiring journey is that no matter how noble your intentions are, they cannot take the place of the basic rules of business. If you truly want to change the world, if you truly want to do good for society, then you do not only have to become a saint. You have to become a very cruel, ruthless, and precise strategist. You have to accept that purpose and profit are not enemies of each other. If you build a solution that solves some large problem of the world, but if that solution cannot stand on its own feet economically, then it is not a solution. It is only a hobby. And hobbies do not change the world. Companies change the world, the ones that step onto that battlefield of the market, look those 7 terrifying questions straight in the eye, and win that war on the strength of their capability. So step out of that safe bubble of your ideas. Stop giving yourself the false consolation that your work is great and therefore you will automatically succeed. Scratch the foundation of your company and look. Ask yourself those bitter questions that destroy the sleep of the night. Because when the real storm of the market arrives, your posters, your speeches, and your good intentions will not save you. What will save you is that deep understanding that found the answers to those 7 questions long before that storm arrived. Chapter 14. The Founder's Paradox. Just imagine that moment. You are standing in the middle of a vast and magnificent auditorium. The bright flashlights of hundreds of cameras are shining on your face. That light is so intense that your eyes are dazzled. In front of you, thousands of people have risen from their chairs and are clapping for you. The roar of that applause is echoing through the entire hall. Journalists from the world's largest newspapers are pushing each other to get a glimpse of you. Tomorrow morning your picture is going to be printed on the cover page of every magazine. You are being called the greatest genius of this century. You have been accepted as the god of the future. People are copying the way you wear clothes. They are copying the way you walk. Inside you, intoxication is running that is deeper and more intoxicating than any alcohol. You feel that you can truly change all the rules of the world and nature is dancing to your signals. Now feel the other side of that same coin. 6 months have passed. You are sitting alone in a dark room of your house. Outside it is raining. Notifications keep coming continuously on your phone screen. But you do not have the courage to look at them. Your heart is beating so hard that you feel your chest will burst. Your breath is short and cold drops of sweat are shining on your forehead. Last night a very large bug appeared in your company's servers and the data of millions of customers leaked. Since this morning the same media, the same journalists, and the same crowd that was worshipping you until yesterday have become thirsty for your blood. On the internet you are being abused. You are being called a fraud, a greedy person, and a devil. Your own investors are not answering your phone. Your co-founder has turned his eyes away from you. The world that made you a god has today come out onto the streets to crucify you. Feel that terrible tightness, that loneliness, and that chest-tearing pain on your skin. This is not the story of a film. This is the real life of every person in the world who needs to create something new. This is that terrifying truth of the life of a founder that we call the Founder's Paradox. When you build a company, you are not only building a business. You are building a laboratory of your own psychological inner conflict. From childhood itself, an attempt is made to mold us into an invisible mold. Our schools, our society, and our parents want to make us walk on that path which in the language of statistics is called the normal distribution. This is a bell-shaped curve. We are taught that most people in the world are in the middle. You should not be too sharp and you should not be too foolish either. You should not look too rich and you should not remain poor either. You should become a balanced, well-rounded person. Society likes the middle part because there is no danger there. There is no rebellion there. But a great founder completely flips this bell-shaped curve. He is not in the middle. He is always at the extremes. Just look inside yourself. If you are a founder or want to become one, there is a strange restlessness inside you. At the same time, you can be an extremely shy person who sweats while talking to two people, and at the same time you can be such a cruel dictator who can make a crowd of thousands of people dance to his signals. You start like the poorest person in the world. You do not have money for food. But on paper your valuation is billions of dollars. You are the most outer person of society, an outsider who does not understand any rules, whom people consider strange and crazy. But then by building your own company you become the biggest insider who decides the rules of the entire world. This paradox is not a coincidence. It is the most basic condition for building a great company. You cannot create anything abnormal by being normal. To see the deepest and most terrifying picture of this paradox, you have to walk into that cold and stifling morning of May 1985. Feel that tension in your breath. You are sitting in Apple's boardroom. Around that cold and long glass table sit the company's biggest investors and executives. There is such deep silence in the room that you can hear the ticking of the clock in your ears like a hammer. At one end of the table sits Steve Jobs. And at the other end sits John Sculley, the same John Sculley whom Steve Jobs himself had brought from Pepsi to Apple. Today that same person is proposing to throw Steve Jobs out of his own company. Feel Steve Jobs' pain, that anger, and that terrible helplessness in your chest. The company that you gave birth to with your own hands in your parents' garage, for which you sacrificed your youth, your sleep, and all your relationships, today the people of that same company are telling you that there is no longer any need for you. This fall of Steve Jobs was actually the result of his paradox. At the same time he was a great artist and an unbearable dictator. That vision of his, which was Apple's greatest strength, had become mental torture for the people around him. He would fire people in the elevator. He would call anyone's work trash. He never hid that strange person inside himself. He walked barefoot in the office, ate fruit, and would start crying. He was not a normal CEO who wears a tie and speaks sweet words. He was an extreme, and when you are at the extreme the world cannot tolerate you. That day the boardroom did not throw out the vision. They threw out that paradox, that strange person, so that the company could become a normal company. But history has witnessed that when Apple threw out its paradoxical founder, the company slowly began moving toward the mouth of death. Normal people turned Apple into an ordinary company that was only running on the rules of the market. 12 years later they had to kneel again in front of that same dictator, that same artist, and that same crazy person. When Steve Jobs returned he had become even more fierce and even more paradoxical. And that same paradox made Apple the most valuable company in the world. This story teaches us that the weaknesses of the founder are actually his greatest strength. If you take away a person's madness you will also kill his greatness forever. Now leave this boardroom and walk into another terrifying world. Hollywood and America of the 1930s and 1940s. In the air is the sky-splitting sound of airplane engines, and on the ground are the world's most beautiful actresses. A man named Howard Hughes is ruling the world. Feel the energy of that man. He flies the airplanes he himself built and looks death in the eye and defeats it. He is the world's largest film producer. He is the fastest, the richest, and the most attractive person. Every newspaper and every magazine in the world has made him a god. People invent stories about him. Howard Hughes has turned himself into a myth. But then that shine begins to disappear. Feel the tightness of that corpse-like closed and dark penthouse in Las Vegas on your skin. Decades have passed. Howard Hughes is the richest man in the world. But he is imprisoned in a room. Black curtains hang on the windows of that room so that no light of the sun can enter. The man who once tore through the sky is today trembling with the fear of germs. His hair and nails have grown terribly. He walks with tissue paper tied to his feet. He does not bathe for weeks and keeps watching only one film over and over. Feel that terrible loneliness and that mental darkness. When you earn too much money, when the world makes you a god, you become trapped in a bubble where no one remains to tell you that you are wrong. On that peak of the mountain the air becomes very thin. There a person becomes a slave of his own ego and his own myth. Howard Hughes was not defeated by any competitor. His own paradox and that false divinity ate him from the inside. When you become a founder, the media and the world begin creating a false story around you. They make you a superhero, and the greatest danger arises when you yourself start believing that false story. When you become more of a myth than a human, your fall becomes certain. To understand this psychological game of divinity and fall, we have to descend into the very deep trenches of history and psychology. A very terrifying truth is hidden that can be seen in René Girard's mimetic theory and in the study of ancient civilizations. Remember those tribes of ancient Greece or Rome? Feel the smell of the soil and that terrifying silence. When everything was going well in the tribe, when rain was falling and the crop was good, the king of the tribe was considered a god. He was given the best food. He was crowned. But the rule of nature is that famine will come someday, rain will stop someday, and diseases will spread. When destruction spread in the tribe and people began dying of hunger, a terrible anger and frustration was born inside the people. They needed one person on whom to pour out that pain. Instead of killing each other, they would catch that one king whom they themselves had made a god. Now they would consider that same king a devil. They would abuse him. They would stone him, and in the end they would sacrifice him. He was called the scapegoat. After the death of the king, the people of the tribe would receive a strange psychological relief. They would feel that all the evil had ended with that one person, and now everything would become fine. Today, even though we consider ourselves modern and civilized, that primitive tribe inside us is still alive. Today's corporate world and today's media work exactly like that ancient tribe. The founder is the king of today's era. He is the same God, and he is also the same scapegoat. When your company's stock is rising in the market, when your products are selling across the entire world, this same society places the crown on your head. They listen to every single word of yours like a religious scripture. But in business, spring never lasts forever. When the market falls, when a new competitor arrives, or when even one small mistake happens from your company, this society begins demanding your blood. They do not see that the mistake belongs to the entire system. They need one face on which to pour out their anger. They crucify that founder. They throw him out of the company or put him in jail. Just remember the story of Travis Kalanick and Uber. The man who changed the entire history of taxis running on the roads. Who with his cruel and stubborn nature built his empire in the cities of the entire world. When the time changed, that same society made him a villain. The same investors who had earned billions of dollars by taking advantage of his aggressive nature, those same investors, to save their own image, showed Travis the door out of the company overnight. He became the scapegoat. In the middle of this paradox, what should a founder do? When you set out on this journey, you must understand very well that you cannot live the life of an ordinary person. If you think that you will build a successful company and everyone will also love you, you are living in a very sweet illusion. Greatness never comes from common consensus. You will have to be strange. You will have to appear stubborn, crazy, and many times even cruel in the eyes of the world. That paradox inside you that does not let you sleep at night, that makes you feel that you do not belong to this world, that is actually your greatest strength. Do not try to hide that strange part. Do not hide it behind the sweet words of any corporate training or any PR agency. When you try to make yourself normal, you lose that edge that can cut through the wall of 0 to 1. But at the same time, you also have to avoid that terrifying abyss that swallowed Howard Hughes. You must always remember that you are not any god. What the media is writing about you is only a story that they need to sell their magazines. The day you start reading your own PR press releases truth, that same day you will jump into the well of death. You have to plant your feet very firmly on the ground. You have to keep around you people who can say to your face that you are wrong. You are doing something foolish. You have to step out of that echo chamber where only your praise happens. Because the day that praise stops, that silence will drive you crazy. The life of a founder is like that lone commander standing on a battlefield who knows that if he wins, the entire world will be at his feet, and if he loses, his own army will cut off his head. Feel that loneliness, that terror, and the weight of that responsibility on your shoulders. This journey is not for weak hearts. This is not for people who search for safety or who wait for weekend holidays. This journey is for those few madmen who know that the world was not built by the people who stood in the middle of the crowd. The world was built by those paradoxical extremists who stood so far from the crowd that the crowd either considered them gods or considered them devils. And when they were recorded in the pages of history, they were neither gods nor devils. They were only the people who did not let the future become what it was going to become. Instead, they made the future the way they wanted it. So embrace your paradox. Let that strange person inside you come out. Let the world face that truth of yours that they cannot tolerate. Because when you build from 0 to 1, you are not only building a product. You are permanently carving your own existence onto the chest of this universe. Conclusion. Stagnation and singularity. Just feel yourself on a cold and lifeless evening exactly 100 years from today. The year is 2126. You are sitting in a room whose every wall is a screen. The temperature of the room is exactly right. Flying cars on the streets are moving in lines without any sound. Everything looks so quiet and safe. But as you spend time in that room, a strange tightness begins to rise in your chest. A terrible emptiness that is eating you from the inside. You realize that in the past 80 years nothing truly new has happened in the world. The world has stopped going from 0 to 1. All of humanity has become trapped in an endless loop. This is stagnation. A comfortable old age home where the soul of humanity has gone into a coma. Now step out of this dead world, because stagnation can never last forever. Close your eyes and step into the second picture of the future. In the air is the sharp smell of burning coal and gunpowder that is tearing your lungs. Sunlight is not coming from the sky. Instead, a brown and poisonous haze is spread. You are standing on the rubble of a broken building. Around you, millions of people are fighting like animals for every single drop of water. There are more than 8 billion people in the world, and we adopted globalization without any new technology. The earth has caught fire like a furnace. Resources have ended. This is collapse. If we only keep spreading old things across the entire world and build nothing new, one day this earth will shake us off itself the way a dog shakes off dust. Looking at these two terrifying pictures, your soul trembles. But right then, a deep and primitive fire begins to smolder inside you. You lift your eyes from that rubble and look toward 0. A third path opens in front of you. Singularity. This is that magical point where human creativity completely rewrites the laws of nature. Feel that moment when a scientist changes that code in human DNA that causes death. When a human looks death in the eye and defeats it forever. This is the extreme limit of going from 0 to 1, where a human no longer remains only a living being. He becomes the creator of this universe. But this miracle will not happen by itself. Just listen to the ticking of that clock that is running with the beating of your heart. What are you doing with your life? Have you also become part of that crowd that is only fighting for a safe job and a worn-out life? If at this moment there is a restlessness in your chest, if your fists are clenching by themselves, then you are a founder. Being a founder means taking on a responsibility that makes the entire world tremble. You put your hand into the darkness of that 0 and pull out a light from there that no one has ever seen before. Step out of that false arena of competition. Search for those deep secrets hidden in nature and in the human mind on which society has placed a curtain. Nature has left this universe half-finished. It has given us a blank canvas and placed a brush in our hands. Our greatest challenge is not that we will be defeated by machines. Our greatest challenge is that we ourselves will become a machine. Break that machine. Step out of that safe crowd and place your foot on that unknown path where there is no map. Because when you tear open the chest of 0 and raise your first 1, you will not only build a company. You will build a new world. The future never waits. It becomes the slave of those who have the courage to forge it today with their own hands.